Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku. Back with another fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku's Class Got a Quirkless Transfer Student? Now before starting, please give this video a like. And subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. I heard there's a new transfer student. Really? But it's only the second day. Why didn't they just take the entrance exam? Are they a boy or a girl? I hope they're a nice girl. Quiet down, everyone. The sliding door opened, and in walked a man with disheveled hair and a weary appearance. Instantly, all the curious chatter from the students ceased. He was Shōto Aizawa, the homeroom teacher of Class 1A. I really don't get paid enough for this. Aizawa made his way to the front desk, set down the few items he had brought with a tired sigh, and looked around at the eager students staring back at him. As some of you may have heard, yes, there's going to be another student joining your class today. He acknowledged their excitement, and their questions erupted all at once, shattering the silence that had briefly settled. Who would join right after the entrance exams? One student, a boy with ash blonde hair and a frustrated expression, asked. Seriously? All this commotion for a latecomer? It felt like a waste of his time. Watch your language, Bakugo. Bakugo simply rolled his eyes in response, and Aizawa sighed again. And you can just ask her. You can come in now. From the left open sliding door came a new person, a girl wearing the same uniform as the other students, but under a large hoodie. Her hood was raised, concealing most of her hair and forehead. I'm sorry to intrude. With a quick bow, she stepped into the classroom to stand next to Aizawa. The entire class watched her in anticipation, causing her to bow her head to avoid their gazes. Well, just introduce yourself and they'll ask you questions, Aizawa said, gesturing for her to proceed. She glanced at him, nodded, and with some courage, faced the stares of her new classmates. She began, looking at all the different faces before her, her nerves creeping back. She clasped her hands behind her to keep them still, not wanting to appear more anxious. My name is Shiro Kurayami. Please take care of me. Also, could you maybe introduce yourselves when you ask your questions? Kurayami added, remembering to smile to appear friendly rather than demanding. It's so I can remember your names and faces better, of course. Her smile turned sheepish after her explanation. I have a question. Someone from the back raised their hand. It was a girl with brown hair styled in a round bob. My name's Achiko Uraraka. Why didn't you just take the entrance exams? Today is just the second day. Others in the class showed their curiosity with eager expressions. Well, Uraraka-san, I actually came here from the airport. No one spoke up, so she continued. I've been staying in Europe before deciding to come back and attend UA. I think I took an entrance exam while sending in my admission while still there. A moment of silence hung in the air as Kurayami and her classmates exchanged glances, but it quickly shattered when a flurry of excited voices erupted with questions. Settle down and raise your hand when you have a question. Aizawa's commanding voice cut through the chaos, bringing an immediate hush to the room. He sighed, contemplating whether he was being compensated fairly for managing a lively group of students so early in the morning. A boy with bright yellow hair eagerly raised his hand, waving it with enthusiasm. Me. I have a question. He flashed a wide grin. By the way, I'm Denki Kaminari. Don't forget my name. So, are you single? Kurayami felt her cheeks heat up, unsure if the color was healthy or not. She glanced at Aizawa, seeking a response. Bewildered expression. Are questions like this really allowed, Aizawa-sensei? Just answer and get them over with, was the half-hearted reply she received. If you say so. Kaminari, was it? Well, I guess I'm single. She avoided looking into Kaminari's eyes as she spoke, not wanting to face the grin she knew he was wearing. Kurayami. Breathless, the students gasped in awe as they beheld Kurayami's hair, a striking blend of black and white. Is your hair natural? Asked a girl with green hair and an unusually wide-eyed expression, reminding Kurayami of frogs. What's your name? Tsuyu Azui. You can call me Sui, she replied. Well, Suisan, I hope you don't mind, But I'd like to keep that bit of information to myself for now, Kurayami said, a mysterious smile playing on her lips. What about your quirk? At last, the question that had been on everyone's minds was posed by a redhead with a grin that revealed sharp teeth. You gotta tell us what it is. Ijiro Kirishima's the name. Kurayami glanced at Aizawa, her eyes seeking guidance on how to respond. He met her gaze with a silent nod, encouraging her to answer the eager class. Well, I'm Quirkless. To be continued, wherein newly transferred students are temporarily placed into a random class, primarily the first class of the year, until the school can evaluate their academic level through the next midterm or final exam. After this evaluation, students will be reassigned into classes with peers of similar academic abilities. Chapter End. General information. Name, Shiro Kurayami. Age, 15. Birth date, October 13th. Gender, female. Quirk, Thun. Occupation, student. School, UA Academy. Class, Class 1A Hero Department. Appearance. Hair color, straight, waist-length hair, right side black, left side white. Eye color, misty gray. Height, 168 centimeters, 5 feet 6 inches. Features. A long scar stretches from her bicep to her forearm on her right arm, with multiple small, subtle scars scattered around her left. Most people overlook them as they don't look closely. Style. Wears the UA uniform properly, with a red tie tucked into her school blazer. All buttons are fastened, and her skirt is slightly longer, resting just above the knee. Personal information. Likes. Cats, European food. Blood type, B. Relatives. Kage Kurayami, father. Sirii Shinsina, mother. Birthplace, Tokyo. School status. Power. Speed. Technique. Intelligence. Cooperation. Class ranks, currently unknown. Silence enveloped the classroom as the students stared blankly, processing the unexpected revelation. What? The class exclaimed in disbelief, their eyes wide as the new girl laughed nervously. I knew your reactions wouldn't be good, she murmured, glancing at the teacher, who sighed and nodded in understanding. Just treat her normally. Kurayami, you can sit behind Yaoyorozu. Yaoyorozu, raise your hand so she knows who you are. After a moment, a hand belonging to a girl with black hair tied in a ponytail shot up. The new student walked over to take her seat behind her. Sitting down in my newly assigned seat, I pulled out my notebook and began jotting down notes for the class. I paused when I felt someone's gaze on me. Looking up, I noticed Todoroki staring. When our eyes met, he quickly turned away, focusing on the front of the room. I really need to learn their names better. I sighed, shaking my head before returning my attention to the front. Suddenly, I caught Yaoyorozu smiling at me. Hello. Your name is Shiro Kurayami, right? Mind if I call you by your first name? I'm Momo Yaoyorozu. She extended her hand with a warm smile, and I took it, shaking hands. Hi. Sure, you can call me by my first name. We're friends. Can I call you Momo-chan? I asked, earning a nod from her as she turned back to the lesson. I am here, a loud voice boomed, the door bursting open to reveal a large figure. The class halted, eyes wide. Coming through the door like a normal person. The figure turned out to be the number 1 hero, All Might, and the class erupted into cheers of excitement and awe. And he says he's coming in like a normal person. I muttered, sweat forming on my brow as I watched the boy with green hair practically fanboying over All Might and his heroic presence. Welcome to the most important class at UA High. Think of it as Hero Training 101. Here, you will learn the basics of being a pro and what it means to fight for good. Let's get into it, the trial of battle. But remember, one key to being a real hero is looking good. These were designed based on your costume SBMSN forms that you sent in before school started. Get suited up and meet me at Training Ground Beta. All Might cheered, and the class jumped up to grab their costumes. I stayed back to speak with him. All Might Sensei, I called, making him look down at me with his trademark grin. Ah, young Kurayami. What seems to be the problem? He asked, hands on his hips as I fidgeted nervously. WL. How am I supposed to take part in this trial of battle? I don't really have a quirk to use. I trailed off, and All Might nodded, understanding my concern. Well, young Kurayami, you made it into the hero department without your own quirk and learned various fighting styles, yes? I think you'll do just fine. He encouraged me, giving my head a reassuring pat before heading to the door. Come on now, you have your hero costume made, why not use it? He said, and I looked up, my spirits lifting as I nodded enthusiastically. Yes, sir. Is everyone here? All Might asked, scanning the room as students chatted excitedly about their hero costumes. All Might, Kurayami-san isn't here. The green-haired boy, Izuku Midoriya, exclaimed, and the brunette beside him realized it too, just as a distant voice called out. I'm sorry I'm late. I had a little issue with the costume, but I got it fixed. Everyone turned to see Shiro Kurayami running toward them in her hero costume. She wore brown-heeled boots that reached mid-thigh, a white off-shoulder dress with red trimmings, and a thin black leather belt at her waist. Long white sleeves wrapped around her arms, adorned with golden pads, and a flowing cloak in red and white trailed behind her, intricately designed with golden thread. A red ribbon choker with a green emerald completed the look, and 2 swords were sheathed on her back. Miss Churchin, the brunette, Achiko Uraraka, exclaimed, stopping in front of her. Is the costume okay? I honestly don't know. Shiro mumbled, glancing down at her outfit until she felt hands on her arms. You look amazing, Shiro-chan. Your hero costume is so beautiful. Achiko squealed, and the green-haired boy next to her nodded in agreement, his cheeks turning a shade of red. I agree. My name is Izuku Midoriya, if you didn't know, he greeted, squirming under their attention. Your hero costume is adorable, Izukun. Shiro said, causing his blush to deepen as he mumbled a thank you. Wow, Shiro-chan. Your hero costume is really something, Momo Yaoyorozu chimed in, smiling. Thank you, Momo-chan. Yours is nice too. I think. Shiro mumbled, returning to their conversation until All Might shushed them. Now that you're ready, it's time for combat training, he announced, hands on his hips as someone raised their hand. Sir, this is the fake city from our entrance exams. Does that mean we'll be conducting urban battles again? A male voice in a helmet asked, confirmed to be Tenya Ida. Not quite. I'm going to move you 2 steps ahead. Most villain fights you see on the news take place outside. However, statistically speaking, encounters with the most dastardly evildoers often happen indoors. Think about it: home invasions, underground tunnels, secret lairs. A truly talented villain knows how to stay hidden in the shadows. But in this training exercise, you will be split into teams of heroes and villains and engage in 2-on-2 indoor battles. All Might explained, the students listening intently. Isn't that a little intense? Tsu Azui, the girl with teal hair, asked, tilting her head slightly. The best training comes from real battlefield experience. But remember, you can't just punch a robot this time, we're dealing with actual people now. The hero replied, suddenly bombarded with questions from the eager students. Sir, will you be the one deciding who wins? How much can we hurt the other team? Do we need to worry about the losers getting expelled like before? Will you be splitting us up based on chance or skill? Isn't this cape flashy? I wasn't even finished talking yet. All Might exclaimed, struggling to keep up as he stared at the class. The young greenette, Izuku, tried to shush their chatter as he panicked. And now, the rules for this trial. There will be a mock nuclear bomb within the building, which the villain team will use to threaten the city. The hero team must infiltrate their base and retrieve the bomb before time runs out. We will decide the teams by lottery. The hero explained, reading from a scripted book as he handed out pieces of paper with letters on them. It seems I'm teaming with you, Deku-kun. Achiko cheered, standing next to Izuku, who turned into a stuttering mess. Yeah, I hope we'll do WWL. He stuttered, fidgeting nervously as he flushed behind his mask. Team A, Izuku Midoriya, Achiko Uraraka. Team B, Shōto Todoroki, Mizo Shoji. Team C, Momo Yaoyorozu, Minoru Mineta. Team D, Katsuki Bakugo, Tenya Ida. Team E, Mina Ishido, Yuga Aoyama. Team F, Koji Koda, Rikido Sato. Team D, Denki Kaminari, Kyokajiro. Team H, Fumikage Tokoyami, Tsuyu Azui. Team I, Mashareo Ojiro, Toru Hagakure. Team J, Ijiro Kirishima, Hanto Siro. X, Shiro's View X. I commented, noticing I hadn't been assigned to a team as everyone else had paired up. What's wrong, Shiro-chan? Momo walked over, looking over my shoulder to peek at my paper, which was blank. Why don't you have a letter? She asked, confused, attracting the attention of Achiko and Izuku as they approached. WL. We do have 21 students in our class now that I came in. So it's kind of an odd number. All Might Sensei. I explained, and All Might looked over as he approached us. Oh, young Kurayami. What seems to be the problem? He asked, still grinning as he towered over us. Well, I don't really have a team. So what am I going to do? I asked, showing him the blank paper as he laughed. Young Kurayami, you are simply going to have to choose a team to join. Since you don't have a quirk, you're going to join another team as the third member. He cheered, gesturing to the other teams as they stood and chatted about their battle plans. Now, pick your team. Choose wisely. He warned, pushing me forward slightly, causing me to stumble and fall onto the cement floor. Itai. I hissed, catching the attention of the teams as they looked at me. I have to choose one of your teams to join. I scratched the back of my neck, walking around them as I scanned the different teams. Ichim. If I were to balance out the strengths of the teams, it would be wise to choose a team with similar ability limits to mine. Like Team I, for instance. I thought, nodding to myself as I walked over to them. I decided to join your team, is that okay? Ojiro and Hagakure, right? I said, waving to them as Ojiro nodded and smiled. Welcome to the team, Kurayami-sen. Let's work together, he said, grinning as his tail swayed behind him. We'll work hard. Hagakure agreed, her gloves clenching, making me nod. All right, everyone, the battles are now arranged. The first battle will be Team A against Team D. I looked over at Izuku to see him shocked. Looking over at Bakugo, I noticed him smirking, saying something I couldn't hear. Noticing my gaze, he glared at me. What are you looking at, huh? You quirkless loser? He shouted, and I raised an eyebrow at him before shrugging it off and looking back towards my team. But how dare you ignore me? I'm going to make you regret that. He threatened, igniting small explosions in his hands as I looked at him with an unwavering expression. Young Bakugo, hurry and get ready. The heroes will be in the building in 5 minutes. All Might called, Bakugo mumbling a string of curses under his breath as he glared at me one last time before heading in. Now everyone, follow me into the observation room. As we walked away, everyone followed, reaching a room with multiple screens showing the inside of the building. While we watched the battle unfold, I focused on Izuku and Bakugo, their lips moving but no sound coming out as they fought intensely. Katsuki Bakugo has a lot of potential, but he's misguided by power and pride. His mastery of his explosion quirk shows he has worked hard. His stamina, strength, quick thinking, and power. He could be a great hero if he weren't so blinded by his own strength. Izuku Midoriya has a unique quirk. But he's strong for sure, just unprepared. There's still a lot of room for improvement for him. He'll definitely be a great hero someday. One who cares for the city and fights villains. He has the intelligence, strength, and stamina to withstand his quirk. He just needs to master it. Smiling slightly, I continued to watch as the heroes were declared the winners, All Might discussing the battle while Momo analyzed it, shocking everyone. I chuckled at the surprised reactions of the class and All Might. This class is amazing, but will they remain the same to me if they find out? The thought caused my smile to falter, turning into a frown as I stared at the ground. Now, for the second match, we have Team B versus Team I. Team I as villains and Team B as heroes. All Might declared, making me shoot my head up, realizing I was going against Todoroki and Shoji. I turned to look at my teammates, and we nodded to each other, walking out of the observation room, already planning our strategy. However, I was unaware of the pair of heterochromatic eyes staring at my retreating figure. The clock has begun. To be continued. No. For the second match, we have Team B versus Team I. Team I will play the villains, and Team B will be the heroes. All Might announced, causing me to look up in surprise as I realized I was going against Todoroki and Shoji. I turned to my teammates, and we exchanged determined nods before stepping out of the observation room, already strategizing our victory. Unbeknownst to me, a pair of heterochromatic eyes were watching my retreating figure. Shiro's view X. As the three of us entered the building, we ascended the floors and located the mock bomb. It's massive, I remarked, staring at it in awe as the others nodded in agreement. Well, we need a plan, Ojiro began, stroking his chin thoughtfully. We have to hurry. Once the hero team is allowed to move, Shoji will likely try to listen in on us, I explained, and Ojiro nodded in understanding. And then there's Todoroki, who we have to contend with, Hagakure added, likely considering his strength. What's his quirk? I asked, unsure of his abilities as I brainstormed various strategies. Half cold, half hot. But he's only used his ice side so far, Ojiro replied, prompting me to think about the tactics they might employ. I have an idea. Hagakure, since your quirk makes you transparent, try to take out Shoji when he least expects it. Ojiro, you will guard the floor where the bomb is while I scout the nearby areas. We need to make this count, time is running out. Hurry! I urged, and we split up, each heading in different directions. Feeling a sudden drop in temperature, I quickly grabbed one of my swords, pushing the tip onto the floor to propel myself upward. Ice immediately covered the ground where I had just stood as I landed, breaking the ice off my sword. Looking for an easy way out, huh? That won't be allowed in this battle, I muttered, knowing my teammates were likely trapped in the ice. As I heard faint footsteps approaching, I gripped my sword tightly, scanning my surroundings before hearing something crackle behind me. I swiftly jumped to the side, narrowly. Avoiding ice spikes that shot toward me, a familiar figure emerging from the haze. You're not frozen in the ice, it seems, Todoroki remarked, his expression unreadable as he regarded me. Your plan was easy to crack. You're not getting through without a fight, I declared, unsheathing my other sword and taking a crouched stance, ready for action. So it seems. Very well then, he replied monotonously, forming ice in his hands and launching a line of spikes toward me. I attempted to dodge, barely making it, but some of the ice shards grazed my face and arms, leaving stinging cuts. We never really properly met. You know my name, but I do not know yours, I said, landing on my feet just as another ice spike shot up from where I had been standing. I guess it seems fair. My name is Shōto Todoroki, he answered shortly, charging toward me to deliver a punch. I leaned to the side and countered with a side kick, sending him crashing into the wall. The gash on my side slowed me down, causing me to wince slightly. So that's your name, huh? Well, it's nice to meet you, Todoroki-san, I greeted, rushing toward him with my swords ready. I leaped off the ground at the last moment, slashing my swords toward his neck, stopping just inches away from him as he froze in place. But I'm winning this one, I concluded, our eyes locked in a tense stare. Heroes, you have 2 minutes left before the villain team wins. All Might's voice echoed through the speakers. I think you're forgetting one more person to deal with, Todoroki said, his expression still emotionless as I smirked at him. Oh, you mean Shoji? I think we have that covered. I raised an eyebrow, and Todoroki looked at me with confusion. We? He repeated, just then hearing something fall to the ground with a loud thud. Yes. We, I confirmed, smirking triumphantly before noticing a slight smirk on Todoroki's face. There's one more thing you're forgetting, he said, prompting me to raise an eyebrow before my eyes widened in realization. Never let your guard down in front of your enemy, he exclaimed, his hands glowing with a blue light as ice spikes erupted in front of me. I jumped back, but it was too late. One of the spikes pierced my leg, freezing me in place. Crap! I thought, struggling to break free as Todoroki walked past me, glancing back briefly before heading toward the mock bomb. Congratulations! The hero team has won. The villains were unable to protect the bomb or defeat the heroes. All Might announced, and I sighed in defeat, slumping my shoulders. I looked up to see a pair of heterochromatic eyes fixed on me. Congratulations, I muttered sarcastically, offering a half-hearted cheer as he raised an eyebrow. Without speaking, he summoned steam around him, the mist expanding as the temperature rose, causing the ice to melt away and release me. As I landed on the ground, I looked up to see him giving me a final nod before walking off. I brushed it off and ran toward where Ojiro had last been seen, finding him standing there with a defeated expression. "Ojiro!" I called, making him look up and wave at me with a slight smile. "We lost her?" "And I didn't do anything," he muttered sadly, sighing and shaking his head. "Hey, you were a great teammate, don't put yourself down. Your quirk is amazing too. Think of all the different things you could do with it. You just have to keep working harder, and I'll be there with you. Let's rise to the top, Ojiro-kun." I cheered, grasping his clenched fist in both my hands and beaming a smile at him. "Oh, of course. Let's do our best," he stammered, a blush creeping onto his cheeks as sweat trickled down his forehead. She's too pure. Come on. Let's go find Hagakure and head back to the observation room," I said, letting go of his hand as I walked slightly ahead, turning to look back at him as he snapped out of his thoughts and nodded, catching up to me as we exited the building. "Congratulations, Team B. You did quite well. Young Kurayami, you should never underestimate yourself, even if you don't have your own quirk to use. You fought equally against young Todoroki back there. Well done. Now go find Recovery Girl to heal your injuries," All Might said. I nodded and turned toward the door, heading out to the medical office. As I reached the medical office, the doors opened, and I was greeted by a short, elderly lady sitting at one of the desks. She noticed me and instructed me to lay down on one of the beds as she approached. "Your injuries aren't major, you're lucky. But you'll need to fix that costume of yours," Recovery Girl said, her lips gently touching the areas of my injuries, the gash already beginning to close as she checked my other wounds. "I know that. But this won't take too long. It'll be fixed in a couple of days. Maybe if I'm lucky, it could be ready by tomorrow," I replied, already feeling the fatigue from Recovery Girl's quirk wash over me. "All done. Now, dearie, please be more careful. You're not like the other students who have quirks to defend themselves," she lectured, making me sigh and nod in defeat. "Now, are you going to be all right?" Assuming she was talking to me, I lifted my head to respond when a voice interrupted me. "I'll be fine. Thank you, Recovery Girl," Todoroki said, expressing his gratitude as she nodded. He stood up from the bed he had been sitting on and looked at me. "Hello there, Kurayami," he greeted, nodding in acknowledgement as I returned the gesture. "I see that you're both fine now. You can go," Recovery Girl said, shooing us out the door as she closed it behind us. Silence fell upon us as we walked back to the observation room. "So, Todoroki-kun," I started, the awkward silence prompting me to break it with conversation. "Kun?" he questioned, glancing at me briefly, his face still emotionless as he looked ahead. I felt a slight blush on my cheeks and averted my gaze to the ground. "I am sorry. I thought that using san was a little too formal, and since we're classmates, I thought I could call you that. But I can call you Todoroki-san if you want." I rambled, my stutters getting the best of me. "No need. It seems fitting that we would be more familiar with one another since we are in the same class now," he said, making me beam a smile at him as I nodded in agreement, catching up to him as he entered the observation room to watch the others fight. As the doors opened to the observation room, all eyes turned to us, and the class rushed over to surround us, bombarding us with questions. "You were amazing, Kurayami-chan," Ashido exclaimed. "Did you go easy on her, Todoroki?" Kirishima asked. "How did you learn to fight like that, Shiro-chan?" Achiko inquired. "That was awesome, Kurayami-san. You were so cool with those swords." Kaminari added. "Are your injuries all right, Shiro-chan?" Momo asked. Overwhelmed by the barrage of questions, I turned into a stuttering mess while Todoroki stood next to me, composed as ever, making me wonder if he even had emotions. Now, everyone. Settle down. The both of them have just come from their battle. It's best if you all give them some room, All Might instructed, his usual grin on his face as everyone backed off. I sighed in relief. WL. If you're all wondering, both of us are fine. The injuries were all healed thanks to Recovery Girl. I shyly replied to their questions, a slight blush covering my cheeks as I mumbled a thank you to them for caring, beaming a cute smile that made everyone freeze in their tracks. She's too bright. An angel from heaven, they thought, blinking back into reality. An. I learned that just for self-defense. You never know when you might need to fight for yourself if no heroes are around. I answered, earning nods of agreement from my classmates. I agree, Kurayami-san. Well, it is a relief to see our newest classmate doing well in lessons. Tenya Ida said, his posture still tense as he stood straight. As everyone continued to watch the fights until the end, and once everyone was healed and ready to leave, we headed back to class to finish the day. Midoriya. Your fight was amazing. Kaminari praised, making the green-haired boy blush until he realized someone was missing. Where's Kaken? Did he leave already? He questioned, looking around the classroom and noticing his absence. I saw him storm off out the door just a few moments ago, the spiky redhead mentioned, prompting the greenette to get up and look for the harsh blonde, much to the protests of his classmates. As the class sighed, they didn't notice a certain Quirkless student sneaking out to follow him. As I rounded the corner of the building while following Izuku, I suddenly heard loud shouting that made me jump and hide behind the corner. I peeked my head out, seeing Bakugo and Izuku engaged in a heated argument that I couldn't quite hear. Just then, All Might appeared, seemingly to intervene with Bakugo, who was clearly upset and shouted at him before storming off. I noticed Bakugo heading in my direction, and panic set in as I realized I wouldn't be able to escape in time. Oh no, I muttered, watching as Bakugo rounded the corner, his head down. He bumped into me with a surprising force, sending me to the ground. When he noticed me, he glared, his frustration evident as he grabbed the collar of my shirt and pulled me up from the ground. What are you doing here? He hissed, his grip firm. I stammered, my nervousness showing as I struggled to come up with a reasonable excuse. He clicked his tongue, shoving me back to the ground before continuing to storm out of the school. As he walked past me, I caught sight of the small droplets of tears that fell from his eyes, and I watched him wipe his nose as he moved further away. My gaze lingered on his retreating figure, a heavy feeling settling in my chest. Katsu-kun. I whispered, shaking my head as I looked up at the evening sky before heading home, a single thought occupying my mind. When will I have to face them again? Walking down the path toward the station, I spotted a familiar figure ahead and hurried to catch up. Todoroki-kun. Good morning. I greeted, joining him as he turned to acknowledge my voice. Kurayami-san. Good morning. Do you take this path as well? He asked, prompting a smile from me as I nodded. My house is just a couple of blocks away, so I usually take the train to school, I explained as we reached the station. I see, he replied simply, and our conversation fell into a comfortable silence as we boarded the train. With no seats available, we stood together, holding onto the overhead handles as the packed train moved. After a while, we reached our stop and hopped off, walking toward the school, only to find a crowd gathered at the main gate. What's going on here? I wondered aloud, moving closer as the crowd turned to us, rushing over with questions. Are you two students of UA High? What's it like to be taught by the #1 hero All Might? How is he in person? As they bombarded us with inquiries and moved microphones our way, we simply ignored them, accustomed to the attention, and walked through the gates. Hey, they called after us, but Aizawa-sensei appeared just in time, pressing a button on a remote, causing thick metallic doors to close the gates. We have to activate the defensive barrier, or they'll rush into the school, he said, instructing us to head to class. We complied, making our way through the hallways until we reached our classroom door and slid it open. Good morning, everyone. I greeted, a smile on my face as my classmates returned the greeting with smiles and waves. Taking my seat, I pulled out the necessary books for the day's lessons. Good morning, Shiro-chan. The reporters found out about All Might being a teacher quickly, Momo said, smiling at me. I nodded, letting out a sigh. Yeah. They can be quite troublesome, I replied, shaking my head. We exchanged amused glances and giggles just as Aizawa entered the classroom, wrapped in his yellow sleeping bag. Today, we will be, he began, a hush falling over the class as everyone anticipated some exciting hero activity. Picking a class president and assistant class president, he finished, causing the class to collectively exhale in relief. A normal school activity, they exclaimed, Aizawa explaining that this was to promote recognition and teamwork. I tuned out the conversation as nearly everyone Bakugo included nominated themselves for class president. Then came the voting process, courtesy of Ida, as we each considered who would be the best fit for the class rep title. Who should I vote for? Momo-chan seems like a strong candidate for class president. But Izuku has that kind of aura that can inspire anyone. And Ida, I thought, glancing over at him and studying his straight posture. He could also be a good choice for class president, given his knowledge of the rules and his commitment to them. He really understands what's right and wrong. That's it, I've made my choice. Smiling inwardly, I then voted for Ida as the final. Results were shown. Midoriya Izuku 3 votes. Yaoyorozu Momo 2 votes. Looking at the results, I turned to Ida and noticed he seemed upset about only receiving 1 vote from me, while Izuku and Ochako were comforting him. Midoriya will be the new class president and Yaoyorozu as deputy, Aizawa-sensei announced, snuggling deeper into his sleeping bag. The two of them walked to the front of the class to stand before us, with Izuku appearing as nervous and flustered as usual, while Momo remained calm with her hands clasped in front of her. As the bell rang, signaling lunchtime, everyone rushed out to get their food. I stood up slowly and made my way to the mess hall, joining the crowd as I received my meal from Lunch Rush, the food hero. Looking around, I noticed all the tables were full except for one. I shrugged and approached the lone occupant. Sorry, mind if I sit here? There aren't any free seats left, I said, gesturing to the crowded tables. The person nodded. Of course, he replied, prompting a smile from me as I placed my lunch tray on the table and slid into a seat. So, Todoroki-kun, you like cold soba, huh? I asked, pointing at the food in front of him while twirling my fork through my pasta. It is quite delectable. I assume you enjoy Italian or Western cuisine then, he replied, glancing at my food before returning his focus to his own meal. Both, I guess. Staying in Europe for that long made it a habit? I chuckled, poking at a meatball on my plate. I see. What? Before Todoroki could finish, a loud alarm interrupted us, causing students in the cafeteria to hurry toward the exit. Level 3 breach. All students exit the building immediately, the announcement blared, making us both jump from our seats. Level 3? Who could be that dangerous? I muttered, unaware of the large group of students rushing toward us. Kurayami-san. I heard Todoroki call out, snapping me out of my thoughts just as I was pushed by the crowd. Hey! I shouted, but the students continued to rush past me. Suddenly, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me toward them. My head bumped into a solid chest, and I felt a hand wrap around my head while the other encircled my waist. Are you all right? I heard him ask. Tilting my head up, I realized it was Todoroki who had saved me. I'm all right. Thank you, Todoroki, I stammered, feeling a blush creep onto my cheeks from our close proximity. Good. Come on, I think our class is already outside, he said, taking my hand and guiding us out of the mess hall. My face heated up at the sight of our hands together. He's just making sure I don't get run over by people again. I mentally chastised myself for thinking otherwise. Once outside, we saw Ida at the top of the exit door, yelling for everyone to calm down, explaining that it was just the press who had entered. Reporters again? They're so insistent. I mumbled, still lost in thought as I felt Todoroki's hand squeeze mine. I looked up to see him regarding me with a very small smile. It's always like that around heroes. You'll have to get used to it, he said, making me chuckle and nod in agreement, a smile forming on my face. I guess. Look, everyone's calm. Shall we head back to our lunch? I asked, unconsciously letting go of his hand. Of course. We then joined the group of students and continued our interrupted lunch. After lunch, we returned to our classes, where I saw Izuku standing at the front with a nervous expression. I have something to announce. I hereby resign from my position as class president and hand over the title to Ida, he declared, leaving Ida shocked as he reluctantly considered the title. He has the right to be president. He calmed all the students during the evacuation. Izuku said, earning shouts of agreement from the rest of the class as Ida officially became class president. Congratulations, Ida-kun. I know you'll be a great class president. I congratulated him, smiling as his cheeks turned slightly pink, and he averted his gaze. Thank you, Kurayami-kun. I'll do my best, he said, suddenly saluting with determination, making me giggle at his behavior. Get back to your seats. Class is starting. To be continued. Get back to your seats. Class is starting. Shiro's view. It was Wednesday morning, and as I was about to head out the door, I caught the news announcing that All Might had defeated another villain. For today's lesson on the foundational skills of heroics, we'll be going off campus to one of the school's facilities. I, All Might, along with another hero, will be there for this lesson. You can wear your hero costume or your PE gear, I don't care. Just get on with it, Aizawa-sensei droned, his tired, red eyes scanning the room as we grabbed our cases and walked out. Wow, Shiro-chan. Your hero costume's already fixed. Bachako exclaimed, walking beside me as we headed to the changing area. Yeah, there weren't many problems, just a small hole and some cuts, so it was easy to mend, I replied, taking my costume out and putting it on, securing my swords in the holsters behind my back before stepping out to see everyone almost ready. Hey there, Kurayami-chan. I didn't get to properly introduce myself. My name's Mina Ishido. You can call me Mina or Ash, a girl with pink skin and horns said, approaching me with a bright grin. I smiled back at her. Hi there, Mina-chan. It's nice to meet you. You can call me by my first name, too. Let's get along from now on, I said, and she nodded as we all walked out of the changing area to find the boys and Aizawa-sensei already waiting. Good, you're all here. Now get on the bus and we'll be off, Aizawa-sensei said, boarding first. Now may everyone please line up in rows of 2 and board according to your numbers. Ida announced, flailing his hands, but no one seemed to listen. Calm down, dude. This isn't that kind of bus, Kirishima said, walking past Ida as he boarded. As I got on, I scanned for an empty seat and spotted one next to Bakugo but decided against it. Looking further back, I finally found a seat that was free and not next to someone with a superiority complex. I settled into the comfy leather seat, taking the sheathed swords off my back and placing them on my lap to ensure they wouldn't slip and cause any accidents. I glanced at the person next to me and saw Todoroki, his gaze fixed on my swords. Todoroki-kun? I called, snapping him out of his thoughts as he looked up at me. I apologize for staring, Kurayami, he said, making me blink in. Confusion. Why should you apologize? You were just looking at my swords. I don't see anything wrong with that. Here, you can take a better look, I offered, handing him my dual swords. He glanced at me briefly before focusing on the swords, pulling one slightly from its sheath and then pushing it back in. What are they made of? He asked, examining the handles that resembled dragons with blue jewels embedded as eyes. They're a mixture of different metals, I suggested to the support department. They can withstand harsh blows and surfaces. These swords can cut through almost anything, I explained, watching him test one of the handles before taking the sword out. It's lighter than I imagined, he remarked, and I nodded, urging him to hurry and place it back in the sheath. Makes it easier for me to do quick strikes. If we're talking about flashy quirks, Bakugo and Todoroki have the most impressive ones here, Kirishima interjected, drawing my attention to their conversation. Yeah, but I doubt Bakugo-chan would ever be popular with his personality, Tsuyu reasoned, causing Bakugo to sit up from his seat. Shut up. I'll be popular, just you watch, he yelled, glaring at Tsuyu as Kaminari chimed in, laughing and pointing at Bakugo. See? If he wants to be popular, his attitude might need a bit of work, he said, making Bakugo even angrier as he glared at Kaminari. "I'll get you for that," he shouted, ready to lunge at Kaminari, but Aizawa-sensei interrupted. "Settle down. We're almost there." "I really don't get paid enough to deal with this," he muttered, turning back to the front as everyone sat in their seats, excitement buzzing in the air. "Here you go, Kurayami," I heard, turning to see Todoroki with both hands outstretched, holding my swords. "Oh, thank you, Todoroki-kun. Maybe someday I'll let you use them for a change," I smiled, strapping the sheaths onto my back again, noticing the faintest hint of a smile on his lips before it vanished. "I'll hold you to that." "Wow, this place is huge," someone exclaimed as we entered the massive facility, Aizawa-sensei leading the way. "There are so many different areas," another student said in amazement, and I marveled at the various zones of the facility. "There are so many different themes in each zone. It's just like a theme park," I muttered, my eyes landing on a figure standing before us. "Whoa! Is that 13? My eyes widened as everyone stared in awe and excitement at being taught by the pro hero. "Hello, Class 1A. This place is the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ. I'll be giving out a few ground rules here," they began, and everyone's sweat dropped as the explanation continued. Being a hero doesn't just mean using your quirks to fight villains. It also means saving citizens from harm. Like my quirk, Black Hole, it can be very useful, but if not used correctly, it could endanger innocent people. I know many of you have quirks that could be dangerous, but that's why this facility was built. For you future heroes to learn to use those quirks for good, they declared, making the class cheer while I looked around at their expressions, feeling a frown form inside. "Quirks that could kill, huh?" I muttered under my breath, my head down as I glared at the floor, unaware that someone had overheard me. "What's that?" I heard Kirishima ask, prompting me to look up and see a purple portal expanding. A hand pushed it open further, revealing a man with a hand oddly placed on his face. What in the world? Does he have a strange obsession or something? What's wrong with this world? Is this also part of our training? Someone asked, and Aizawa-sensei suddenly became defensive, glaring at the figures emerging from the portal. "Class, stay back. 13, protect the students," he shouted, his eyes glowing as he focused on the mysterious newcomers, a realization dawning on me. "No, those are," I began, slowly backing away as the hand guy stared at us. "Villains." As the hand guy turned his head to look at each of us, I tightened my grip on the swords I had unconsciously drawn from my back, stepping back slightly. "Is All Might, the so-called symbol of peace, not here? According to our intel, he was supposed to be present." No. "This will ruin our entire plan," he yelled in frustration, scratching at his neck with a wild look in his eyes before he calmed down. "Very well then. I wonder if the symbol of peace will finally show himself if we take out a few of his students," he mused aloud, sending shivers down our spines while some of us stood frozen in fear. "Why aren't the alarms going off?" "There are alarms here, right?" someone exclaimed. "There are. But someone must have a quirk that interferes with them. That must be why they're silent." 13 realized, and we all took a step back from the villains. "Are they taking the whole school? Or are they just here?" another student shouted. Todoroki shook his head next to me and spoke up. "No, they came for All Might. Somehow, they discovered he would be here today. They've infiltrated this place to eliminate him quickly," he explained, and I looked at him in amazement as everyone understood. 13. Evacuate the students and inform the school. I'll hold them off. Kaminari, if nothing else works, use your quirk to contact the school. Aizawa-sensei yelled, jumping down the stairs with his goggles on. "But your quirk is only effective at long range. You can't possibly fight them all alone." Midoriya protested, causing Aizawa to glance back with a smirk. "No good hero is a one-trick phony." That was all he said before launching himself into action, using his scarf to ensnare one of the villains as he landed. With his quirk activated, the villains were thrown into confusion and fear, falling one after another as Aizawa took them on with skill and strength. I stood in awe, watching him take down the horde of villains single-handedly. "Hurry! Go!" 13 called, urging the students toward the exit while I remained in a daze, still watching Aizawa-sensei subdue a mutant-type villain with his scarf. Come on, Kurayami. It's no time to stare, we have to go. Kirishima pulled on my arm, dragging me along as we ran with the others, my gaze lingering on Aizawa-sensei. Without paying attention to where I was going, I bumped into Kirishima's back, staggering slightly as I looked ahead and saw a figure with a void-like head and yellow, beady eyes staring at us, something metallic wrapped around his neck. Greetings. We are the League of Villains. Forgive our intrusion, but today we have come to UA High School, this bastion of heroism, to end the life of All Might, the symbol of peace, the mist guy announced, causing my eyes to widen. End the life of All Might? I thought, feeling Kirishima's grip on my hand tighten as he turned to look at me. Stay with the others, Kurayami. It's time to be a true hero, he murmured, confusing me as he released my hand and charged toward the mist guy, followed closely by Bakugo. No, Kirishima, you can't attack him, I shouted, but he couldn't hear me as both he and Bakugo launched their attacks, which had no effect on the villain. I glanced over at 13, who caught my eye and nodded, ready to act. Lifting a finger, 13 prepared to use their quirk. But before I could see the usual black hole form, darkness enveloped my vision, and my feet left the ground. It felt like everything was spinning, and soon the darkness faded, light flooding my sight as the air rushed past me. I realized I was falling from a great height. Why am I falling out of the sky? I screamed, trying to steady myself as I spotted the vast forest below. Bracing for impact, I aimed to land on the canopy of the forest. As the crown of leaves approached, I felt the sharp edges brushing against my skin, leaving faint marks. At least I survived, I murmured, scanning the treetops and realizing I had been transported to the forest zone. Leaping down to a lower branch, I noticed a group of suspicious individuals sneaking around beneath me, unaware of my presence above. Villains, I thought quietly, drawing my swords and glaring down at them before jumping down, their startled screams echoing through the forest. Shōto's view. Frost and ice enveloped the area, the villains struggling to free themselves from the icy grip. As I approached one of them, I locked eyes with him, causing him to flinch and look away. What are your plans? How do you intend to defeat All Might? I demanded, watching his eyes widen in fear as he remained silent. I'll ever tell you, he stammered, the ice creeping up his neck as he shouted in alarm. Tell me, or I might just turn you into a frozen statue. I warned, watching him squirm until he finally relented. Fine. We have a weapon. A mutant with power that could rival All Might, he confessed, prompting me to step back, satisfied with the information. Thank you for cooperating. I could leave you here to face the cold, but I'm on my way to becoming a hero. The ice will melt in about 2 hours, I told them, ignoring their cries as I walked away. As I made my way toward the center where Aizawa-sensei was, a bright light caught my eye, drawing me to the forest zone. The light flickered wildly, resembling enormous tentacles. Alongside it, a loud explosion rumbled nearby, a dark purple aura dissipating from the blast. What villain possesses such a quirk? I muttered, deciding to investigate as I ran toward the source, following scorch marks and disturbed earth. Upon reaching a clearing, I found villains scattered around, unconscious and bruised. Some bore minor cuts, with a few showing signs of fresh wounds. As I cautiously navigated through them, I spotted a figure slumped against a tree, appearing barely conscious. I approached carefully, unsure if it was the one with the power I had seen earlier or another villain. As I got closer, I recognized Kurayami, her body marked with cuts and dried blood. Kneeling beside her, I examined her injuries, concerned about their severity. I heard her stir and looked up to see her half-open eyes. Todoroki-kun? She managed to say, followed by a cough. I gently eased her back against the tree. Yes, it's me. What happened here? What was that bright light? I asked, using my quirk to cover her wounds with ice to stem the bleeding. Oh, it was a villain. He was strong. But I managed to handle it, she replied, wincing as my fingers brushed against one of her wounds. Sorry, I said, applying a layer of ice to her injury while wrapping one arm around her waist, supporting her as she leaned on my shoulder. Thank you. Todoroki-kun, she said gratefully. Nodding, we made our way toward the center of the facility. As we approached the central plaza, we saw Aizawa-sensei engaged in battle with their main leader. The villain touched his elbow, causing it to disintegrate bit by bit, forcing Aizawa to retreat. A disintegration quirk. Kurayami murmured beside me, her gaze fixed on Aizawa as a monstrous figure appeared, relentlessly attacking him. No. Todoroki, we need to help, she insisted, attempting to stand but stumbling back into my arms. You can't. In your current state, you're not fit to fight, I told her, meeting her determined gaze. I will. Heroes must fight with everything they have, regardless of the circumstances or the cost. Nothing will stop me, not even you, Todoroki. The clock strikes 2. To be continued. Once he set foot onto the ice, he took me in his arms, carrying me bridal style as he slid down the slope, crouching slightly to maintain better balance. As we glided down, I glanced down to see Aizawa-sensei on the ground, writhing in pain as he clutched his elbow. A monstrous creature loomed over him, its clawed hand scratching dangerously close to his eye, blood pooling beneath it. Aizawa-sensei! I yelled, worry flooding my mind as I saw Midoriya, Azui, and a short purple-haired boy rush to the center just in time to witness Aizawa being dropped to the ground, defeated. As Todoroki and I neared the ground, he jumped off, landing gracefully and letting me down. I rushed over to Aizawa-sensei, falling to my knees beside him. My eyes scanned his wounds, the blood seeming endless as he lay still before me. Aizawa-sensei, I murmured, noticing the new wound beneath his eye, realizing it could affect his future use of his quirk. Seeing him stir slightly, I focused on him, watching as his eyes opened just enough to see me. Kurayami, to get out of here. He told me, weakly pushing my arm away, but I shook my head. No. You're hurt. I have to help you, Aizawa-sensei. I won't let you push me away, I exclaimed, placing his arm back at his side as he let out a shaky sigh. Why you don't understand? It's not Saf. Suddenly, a giant shadow loomed over us, and I looked up to see the monstrous creature that had harmed Aizawa-sensei. The creature reached out to grab me. In a hurry, I unsheathed my swords, forming an X in front of me and pushing them toward the creature. With all my strength, I moved my swords forward, causing the creature to stagger back as I stood up. Looking back down at Aizawa-sensei, I sheathed my swords for the moment and lifted him by the arms, draping one over my shoulder as I tried to carry him to safety. Leave me. I'm just dead weight, he protested, his body limp beside me, but I continued to drag him. No. You're our teacher, you're supposed to be there for us. For me. You promised you wouldn't leave me, you're the only family I have. Tears streamed down my face, and I used my free hand to wipe them away. As I placed him down further from the fight, I looked at him, and he looked back at me. I won't let you leave me anymore, I said firmly before running back to the creature, swords drawn as I charged. No, get rid of the girl, the man with hands said. The creature, which I assumed was called Nomu, charged at me. As it got close, I jumped at the last moment, flipping over it and slashing its back with my swords while in midair. Landing behind it, I turned to see the slashes healing almost instantly as it turned around. Regeneration? Well, that's just great, I muttered, annoyed at the creature's ability as I barely dodged an incoming hand. Kurayami! I heard someone yell, briefly turning to see Todoroki rushing toward me. He slid his right arm across the floor, ice forming from the ground and freezing the Nomu in place at least for now. Come on, we have to stay clear of that thing. We're no match for it, he said, pulling me with him as we ran back to the stairs, where Ida, Uraraka, Shiro, and Shōto were also gathered. Ida! I called, stopping in front of him. You have to get out of here, to the school to call for backup. You're the only one fast enough. There's no way. That warp gate will. We'll help distract him while you escape, Shiro interrupted, placing a hand on Ida's shoulder to confirm his statement, with Shōto nodding in agreement. See, Everyone believes in you, Ida. We know you can do it. I smiled up at him, and he glanced at all of us before nodding, determination set in his eyes. I will do my best. With a salute, he powered up his quirk, the engines on his calves roaring to life as he dashed toward the exit. All right, come on. Let's keep that warp gate busy. Uraraka shouted, and Sato and Shiro nodded as they dashed toward the warp guy, who was trying to reach Ida. Watching their distraction, I saw the warp gate too busy to catch Ida, who had already succeeded in escaping the USJ and was heading to the main school building to call for help. Grinning at our success, I looked over at the three to see the warp gate gone, making me scan the area until I spotted him next to the man with hands. Shigaraki, 13, has been dealt with, but a student has escaped. He will be calling reinforcements, I presume, the warp gate said. The man called Shigaraki scratched his neck in frustration, muttering about how they wouldn't be able to fight off the reinforcements. We have no choice but to retreat. But not before eliminating these students. Shigaraki said, running toward where Midoriya and the others were, his hands stretched out toward Azui's face. My eyes widened as I tried to run over to save her. Todoroki was fending off some nearby villains, but as his hand touched her, nothing happened. I looked toward Aizawa-sensei to see his eyes glowing red, meaning he had activated his quirk to stop Shigaraki. Smash! Midoriya shouted, attempting to punch Shigaraki, but the Nomu caught his fist just in time, shocking Midoriya and the others. I was running toward them, swords in hand. The Nomu and Shigaraki were about to attack the three of them again when a sudden force intervened, a cloud of dust enveloping the area and obscuring my view. Do not fear, a loud voice boomed, and as the dust began to clear, I saw yellow hair and a wide grin that brought tears of relief to my eyes. The number 1 hero and symbol of peace, All Might, had finally arrived. For I am here. With a giant hand, All Might ripped off his tie and blazer, his usual reassuring smile replaced by a serious expression as he faced the villains before him. In a flash, he rushed to his fallen comrade, Eraserhead, lifting him and moving him to a safer distance before returning to where Izuku, Midoriya, Tsuyu, Azui, and Minoru Mineta were huddled. Hurry now and escape. I'll handle this. All Might instructed, determined to confront the villainous Nomu. All Might, Nomu has a very high endurance. Do not worry. It's all right. He flashed his signature smile and dashed toward the creature, ready to avenge his students. Izuku-kun, Hichen, a voice called out, and the two students turned to see their quirkless friend running toward them. Shiro-chan? Tsuyu asked, looking at the girl in confusion as Minoru stared at Shiro, his eyes wide. Are you guys all right? Did that hands guy do anything to you? Shiro asked, glancing at the three of them, relieved to see no major injuries. We're fine. But Aizawa-sensei. Izuku trailed off, his gaze shifting to their barely conscious teacher, prompting the others to look as well. It's not the time to be sulking. We have to get Aizawa-sensei away from here. Tsuyu said, shaking off the dark mood that had settled around them. The others nodded in agreement. It's no use, symbol of peace. Your punches will never be able to injure Nomu, for his quirk is shock absorption. He was created solely for the purpose of fighting you. Tamura Shigaraki, the leader of the attack, taunted, watching as All Might's powerful strike had little effect on the mutant. Then I might as well wear him down. All Might declared, gripping the Nomu and executing a powerful reverse suplex, dust and smoke swirling around them. Yeah. Way to go, All Might. Minoru cheered, amazed by the hero's strength. But he might overexert himself if he goes beyond his daily limit. Izuku muttered, worried that no one could hear him as he watched the battle unfold. Limit? What does he mean? Shiro wondered, glancing at her friend in confusion before turning back to the fight. As the dust settled, the sight that greeted the four students was shocking. All Might remained in the reverse suplex position, while the Noma's body was caught halfway through a warp gate created by Kurogiri. Instead of being transported away, the Nomu was pulled into the middle of All Might's pose, its hands gripping the hero's torso, aiming for his weak point. Kurogiri's warp gate was also dragging All Might into the portal, signaling a shift in the battle's tide. Worried, Izuku rushed to aid All Might, desperate to save him from further harm. But before he could reach the hero, Kurayami noticed him and opened another warp gate to send Izuku away. However, before the villain could execute his plan, an explosion erupted nearby, knocking him to the ground as a force pressed against his neck. Ice suddenly spread toward the Nomu, freezing its lower body in place. The one who did that was none other than Shōto Todoroki, who was careful not to freeze All Might along with it, giving the hero a chance to escape from the grip of the mutant creature. "Not so tough now, huh?" a voice yelled, spiked red hair and a large grin on his face as he attempted to sneak attack the leader, but to no avail. "Todoroki-kun." Shiro smiled, glad to see that her friend had come just in time to help All Might, the other two next to her also relieved to have backup. "Hey, it's Shiro-chan." "Shiro-chan," a feminine voice called. Shiro turned towards her caller to see Achiko Uraraka and the others, including the hero 13. "Achiko-chan." Seeing them above their heads, they greeted each other and asked about the situation, noticing the half-conscious teacher they were carrying and deciding to help them. "Go hide, and let All Might deal with this," 13 said, some of them nodding while one particular student stayed. "I'll go down to help them. All Might can't fight that thing alone," Kurayami declared, grabbing onto both her swords and dashing off to the central plaza, not even waiting for 13's response. "It wasn't hard to figure you out. All that mist to hide your actual body. Now tell me if I was wrong, then how do you explain when Shitty Hair and I attacked you before and you said, it was a close call? You wouldn't be able to dodge or deflect physical attacks if they were well aimed." With a smirk, the ash blonde known as Katsuki Bakugo continued to pin down Kurayami, pushing him harder into the ground. "Now if you even move a little, I won't hesitate to blow you up," he yelled, threatening the villain. "That's not a very hero-like thing to say," Shiro mentioned, earning a glare from the ash blonde as he continued to pin down the warp villain. "I must say, I have underestimated you students. Most of you are even uninjured. At this rate, the League of Villains would be a laughingstock. Nomu, go and save our warp gate," the leader Tamura Shigaraki ordered. The brainless mutant, Nomu, broke free from his frozen limbs, the missing appendages rapidly growing back, much to everyone's shock. "Wasn't his quirk shock absorption, eh?" the greenette, Izuku Midoriya questioned, watching as the Nomu now stood back up. "I never stated that was the full extent of his abilities. You see, Nomu also has a second quirk, super regeneration. Nomu is a human sandbag artificially crafted to withstand even your 100%. But every time you try to hit this sandbag, it hits back with as much force." Shigaraki explained, the Nomu turning its head towards where the warp gate, Kurayami and Katsuki Bakugo were. As the Nomu was now fully regenerated, it ran towards Katsuki, aiming a punch at him. As the gathered smoke diminished, the sight they saw was not of a punched Katsuki, but of All Might having taken the brunt of the attack, leaving the young student unharmed. "Do you not know how to hold back?" All Might yelled, glaring at the creature in front of him. "It was to rescue my companion," Shigaraki stated, pointing at the now free Kurayami as he continued. "I had no choice. Earlier that plain-looking one was about to punch me with everything he had, you know. Violence for the sake of others really is admirable, huh?" he finished, pointing at the plain-looking one also referred to as Midoriya. "You know what? I'm angry. I'm angry at this world that categorizes the same violent acts as heroic and villainous, deciding what's good and what's bad. Symbol of peace? You're just a device used to repress violence. But violence only breeds more violence." Tamura Shigaraki spat, a vile smile stretching on his cracked lips, arms spread out as he eyed All Might. "You villains are always muttering about this just to make yourselves feel right. But the violence that you villains do holds no noble cause," All Might said, still holding onto the gnome. "It's 3 against 6, the dual-element quirk holder," Shōto Todoroki stated. "And your warp gate's weakness has been exposed," the bicolored female, Shiro Kurayami said, gripping her swords tightly as she stood beside the bicolored male. "These guys are insane. But if we back All Might up, we can push them back." The redhead, Shiro Kurayami grinned, punching both of his hardened fists together. No. You all must run, the hero All Might ordered, making them look towards him as if he were crazy. If it were not for me, you would have still been in trouble, no? Todoroki questioned, making the hero look at him with a grin. That is but a different story. But I thank you, young Todoroki, All Might replied, the boy looking at the hero. But it is fine now. It's time you see how a pro hero gives everything he's got, the hero stated, making the greenette, Izuku Midoriya worry. But All Might, you're bleeding. And your time is. The boy suddenly cut himself off, remembering that there were other people here as he glanced at his fellow classmates. There it is again. Him talking about something about time. With furrowed eyebrows, Shiro looked at her green-haired friend in confusion. Kurohikayashi, Nomu, go and deal with All Might. I will deal with these children, Shigaraki said, earning nods from the warp gate. Let's just clear this up quickly and go home. We still get to do this after all. Shiro grinned, getting into a fighting stance as he prepared for the leader of the situation to charge at them. As Shigaraki rushed towards the group of future heroes, All Might was engaged in a fierce fistfight with the Nomu. The ground shook with shockwaves as the two seemed evenly matched, their battle intensifying. Shiro's view X. A head-on fistfight? Midoriya exclaimed, struggling against the overwhelming force of their clash. Wow! Kirishima shouted, trying to steady himself as he used his hardened arms to shield his face. Even I could feel the power radiating from the fight, and suddenly, I was lifted off my feet, yelping in surprise as I braced for impact. But instead of hitting the ground, I felt a hand wrap around my waist, stopping me from flying back. I looked up to see a pair of gray and turquoise eyes staring back at Todoroki-kun. Thanks. I murmured as he released me, and we both turned our attention back to All Might, who was fighting valiantly against the Nomu. Its quirk isn't shock nullification but shock absorption, right? There has to be a limit to this. All Might bellowed, his grin wide as he landed powerful punches on the Nomu. Made to kill me? If you can withstand my full power, then I'll give you everything I've got, he yelled, determined to break through the Nomu's endurance as they exchanged blow after blow throughout the USJ. Amazing! Even after taking so many hits, he can still land a punch, I whispered, mesmerized by the pro hero's speed, which left the Nomu struggling to keep up. A hero can always break out of a tough spot. Hey villain, hear my words and hear them well. Go beyond, plus. Ultra. With a final punch, All Might struck the Nomu in the gut, sending it crashing through the ceiling, the force of the impact shattering the ground around them. Is this some comic book scene or something? Kirishima questioned, disbelief etched on his face as he took in the aftermath. It's like he nullified the Nomu's shock absorption. His strength is incredible. What amazing power! Does this mean he attacked so quickly that the Nomu couldn't regenerate? Bakugo muttered, watching All Might, who was panting but still wore a wide grin. I've definitely gotten weaker. In my prime, just 5 hits would have been enough, but now I had to use over 300 blows, All Might said, turning towards the hands guy. Now, villains, I'm sure we all want to end this as soon as possible. As I glanced at the hands guy, I noticed his frustrated expression, his hands scratching at his neck in agitation. I kind of feel sorry for him. I muttered, noticing the irritation on his skin from scratching. Weaker? No way, we've been completely overwhelmed. I can't believe he did that to my Nomu. Did he cheat? Hands guy grumbled, still scratching his neck. What's wrong? You're not coming? I thought you said you'd clear this or something? Come and get me if you can, All Might taunted, causing the hands guy to step back in surprise. All Might, I whispered, in awe of his strength despite the damage he had taken. As expected, we are not needed in this fight, Todoroki remarked, catching my gaze and returning it. Come on, Midoriya. We need to get out of here. We wouldn't want to be taken hostage and drag All Might down. Kirishima called, but Midoriya stood frozen, not responding. From the corner of my eye, I noticed the villains that Aizawa-sensei had previously taken down starting to rise again, breaking my focus from Todoroki. Todoroki-kun. The villains, I said, and he turned to see what I was pointing at. Right? He replied, and I felt the chill emanating from his right hand. We can still take him down. All that damage he took must have weakened him significantly, Kurayami said, calming the hands guy slightly as he nodded in agreement. You're right. We can still defeat him. Both he and Kurayami charged towards All Might, who was clearly weakened, blood dripping from his mouth. All Might can handle the main threats. Let's help take down the others. Kirishima shouted, noticing the villains regaining consciousness, but Midoriya remained fixated on All Might. No! I cried, turning to see Midoriya powering up and rushing toward the hands guy with a determined fist. Izuku! I called, trying to stop him, but he continued his dash toward the villain. Just before Midoriya could strike, a portal opened in front of him, a hand reaching out as if to grab him. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed, and a bullet struck the hand, forcing it to retreat. What the hands guy exclaimed, turning to see the other teachers and pro-heroes arriving at the entrance, Ida among them. Tenya Ida, class representative of Class 1A, has arrived with reinforcements, he announced, making me smile as I looked at him. Yeah. Ida, you're amazing. I cheered, and he turned to acknowledge me, saluting with a grin that made me laugh. Sorry we're late, everyone. I gathered everyone who was available and rushed over. Principal Nizu said, perched on one of the teacher's shoulders and waving. Our plans have failed. Let's just retreat, hands guy said, but Snipe shot at him several more times, causing him to stumble to the ground. Tamura Shigaraki. Kurayami called, opening a warp gate for their escape. 13 tried to intervene but was too late, watching as they vanished. Oh, so that's his name. I murmured, reminding myself to refer to him as Shigaraki Tamura next time. If this many pro-heroes have gathered, then it means the rest of the school is safe, Todoroki said, looking at me, and I nodded, smiling back at him. That's something good. At least the rest of the school is safe, I said, noticing a slight smile forming on Todoroki's lips. Yeah, he replied, and I was still surprised to see that smile as I stared at him. We want to ensure that all students are fine, so please gather by the front gate. We will attend to the injured, a voice commanded, with Cementos standing in front of Kirishima, who nodded in agreement. Come on. Let's go, I said, gesturing toward the gate while Todoroki remained still, looking at me. What's wrong, Todoroki? I asked, pausing my steps as I stood in front of him, puzzled. You need to be taken to the infirmary, he stated, making me glance down at my injuries, which were temporarily numbed by the ice Todoroki had created earlier. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. A few days, and these will heal up. Now come on. Let's go. Without waiting for his response, I grasped his hand and ran toward the front gate. 18, 19, other than the boy with both legs seriously injured, it seems everyone else did not suffer major injuries, the detective said, counting those present as he concluded his assessment. Let's have the students return to their classes for now. We won't be questioning them anytime soon, right? The detective added, and Azui suddenly inquired about Aizawa-sensei's condition. Comminuted fractures in both arms and a facial fracture. Fortunately, there doesn't seem to be any brain damage. However, his orbital floor has broken into small pieces, and his eye may suffer from the aftereffects, he replied, confirming my fears that the injury could impact his quirk's future use. What about 13? Ashido asked, and I tuned out of the conversation, glaring at the floor beneath me. After a while, we were finally released to head back to class, and I remained lost in thought, walking at the back with Todoroki, who was also distracted. Does this affect our lives at UA now? After the whole incident at the USJ, the school decided to give us the day off to recover from what had happened. I stayed at home, lying on my leather couch and staring blankly at the ceiling above me. Meow. My little cat K purred, jumping onto the couch and curling up on my stomach. He was a small ball of dark blue fluff, with tufts of fur on his head sticking out like little horns, and wild strands of hair poking out in all directions. His tail had a fluffy tuft at the end, making him quite unique. Hey there, buddy. I'm sorry for not playing with you these past few days, I said, gently stroking his fur as he purred in delight. Let's go grab a bite to eat, huh? There's a cat cafe nearby that we could visit. He meowed in response, as if he understood me. Great, come on. Let's get you ready. I picked up Kay and prepared us both to head out. I brushed out most of his tangled fur and put on his bell collar. I changed into a white shirt and black shorts, throwing on a pale blue coat since it was a bit windy outside. I also wore a black beanie. With white socks and black lace-up shoes on, I picked up Kay and opened the door, locking it behind us as we left our home. The chime of the bell signaled our arrival at the cafe. The scent of tea and coffee filled the air, accompanied by the sounds of meowing and purring all around. Welcome to Le Petit Chaton Noir. What a cute little kitten. Is he yours? The waitress asked, a bright smile on her face as she petted Kay, who purred happily. Yes, he is. His name's Kay. I brought him here to meet some friends and enjoy ourselves, I replied, smiling back at her. Well, we're glad you chose this place for your little feline companion to make new friends. I'll lead you to a table. The waitress guided me to a small round table. My name's Yasashi. What would you like to order? She asked, pulling out a notepad and pen as I skimmed through the menu. I'll have royal milk tea and a croissant, please. Oh, and some of your best milk for Kay here, I said, smiling as Yasashi nodded, quickly jotting down the orders on her notepad. Thank you for ordering. Your order will be arriving shortly. You can let Kay wander around and play with the others if you like. Just call me if you need anything else. Beaming with another smile, Yasashi left, delivering the orders to the kitchen as I looked around the cafe. The place had a warm and friendly atmosphere, clean and tidy. Even with numerous cats roaming about, there was hardly any cat hair or mess to be seen. The staff must be very dedicated to keeping everything in such good condition. Most of the tables were round, while some were rectangular, with chairs featuring cushions or long couches for customers. In various corners, cats of all kinds strolled around, some lounging and napping, while others engaged with the customers. Meow. Kay leaped onto my lap, nuzzling his head into my stomach, drawing my attention as I looked down at him. Do you want to go play with the other cats, Kay? I asked, stroking his head as he purred, nodding in response while I smiled. Okay, you can go. But don't play for too long. We don't want your milk to get cold, do we? I teased, gently tapping his nose. He meowed and jumped off me, heading toward a group of cats. I smiled as I watched Kay roll a yarn ball toward a little tabby cat, the two of them playing together. Here you go. The milk's fresh. Take it as a special treat for Kay from me. Yasashi said, placing our orders on the table with a grin. Thank you, Yasashi. That's very kind of you, I replied, grateful for her thoughtful gesture. It's no problem. Plus, your little kitten is just too cute. He even caught the attention of a few customers. I turned to see a boy with messy violet hair crouching in front of Kay, petting his head. I guess so. But thank you again, I said, and Yasashi assured me it was no trouble before rushing off to serve other customers. Taking a sip of my milk tea, I decided it was time to call Kay to drink his milk. Walking over to where Kay was with the violet-haired boy, Kay spotted me and walked over to my feet, purring as the boy turned to look at him. Kay, you can play later. Your milk is here, and it's specially made fresh for you. Come on. I picked him up, stroking the fur on his back as he purred, eyes closed in contentment. Is he your cat? The violet-haired boy asked, looking at me. Yeah, he is. I'm pretty sure he enjoyed your company. I trailed off, noticing him staring at me. Hitoshi Shinso, he said, blinking slowly as I noticed the bags under his eyes. Shinso-kun, if you want, you can play with Kay some more once he's finished his milk, I offered, seeing his eyes widen slightly before returning to their usual bored expression. Sure. Thanks, he replied, scratching the back of his neck as I invited him to sit at our table. Once I placed Kay onto the table, he walked toward the bowl of milk and began to lick it, his eyes closed in delight. What's your name, anyway? Shinso asked, petting Kay as he glanced up at me. Oh, right. My name's Shiro Kurayami. Nice to meet you. I introduced myself, smiling as I observed how gentle he was with Kay. Right. So, Kurayami, which school do you go to? He asked, now fully focused on me, making me chuckle nervously. Well, I go to UA High. It's my first year, I answered, noticing him perk up at my response. The hero course? He assumed, and I nodded in reply as he sighed, ruffling his hair with his right hand. So, what's your quirk then? If you got into the hero course, he asked, making me nervous as I fiddled with my thumbs. Oh, you see, I kind of don't have a quirk. I transferred in. So I didn't know. I stuttered, rambling on about my situation as he remained silent. Quirkless? I see, he said, making me stop and stare at him. Well, what about you, Shinso-kun? Do you go to UA too? I asked, earning a nod from him as he mentioned he was from the General Studies department and also of first year. We talked for a couple more hours, occasionally playing with K together as he purred and meowed. Wait, so you have a brainwashing quirk and didn't get into the hero department? I repeated, shocked as he nodded. My quirk couldn't really help me that much in the entrance exams, he explained, making me say, oh, as I understood the reason. Well, they should have made better exams then. Your quirk's super cool, I said, my eyes sparkling as I leaned forward slightly, causing his eyes to widen at my statement. You really think my quirk is cool? He mumbled, and I nodded with a smile. Yeah. Just imagine, you could take down villains left and right with that quirk. It would be such a breeze too. I rambled, envisioning what kind of hero Shinso could become in the future. Pausing for a moment, I glanced at Shinso to see him smiling, a light pink tint on his cheeks making me smile back. Shinso, you're smiling, I exclaimed, but his lips quickly returned to a straight line as if nothing had happened. Don't get used to it. Thanks for saying that I could be a great hero someday, he said, making me give him a warm smile as I nodded. Of course, Shinso, oh man. It's this late. I have to go home. Bye, Shinso. I hope to see you at school soon. With a quick wave, I picked up K and left some money on the table to cover our order before rushing out. Believes in me. Shiro Kurayami, huh? The clock struck 6. Don't get used to it. Thanks for saying that I could be a great hero someday, he said, making me give him a warm smile as I nodded. Believes in me. Shiro Kurayami, huh? X, Shiro's View X. Good morning, Todoroki. I greeted as I boarded the train, spotting the familiar head of red and white hair. Ah, good morning, Kurayami. He nodded, his eyes slightly looking down at me since he was a good 2.5 inches taller. Todoroki, please stop adding san when you call my name. I find it too formal. I finally spoke up about it. Oh, I apologize if I've made you uncomfortable. What if I call you by your first name instead? He asked, his eyes showing an apologetic look, like a puppy that had done something wrong. That's okay. Then, it means I can call you by yours too, right? I smiled, seeing him nod in agreement as we waited in silence for our stop at UA. After a while, the train finally reached the station near the school. Both of us got off and walked toward the school gates. How are your injuries healing, Shiro? Todoroki suddenly asked, making me look up at him. Oh, they've healed a lot. Only minor scratches and marks are left, but they'll probably be gone soon. I replied, smiling at how he showed concern for my well-being. With minor chatter here and there, we made it into class. It was still early, so not many students were there yet. Good morning, Momo. I greeted, giving her a warm smile as she looked up from the book she was reading. Good morning, Shiro. Did you rest well yesterday? She asked, making me nod as I sat at my seat, and she turned around to start a conversation. Yeah, it was a nice chance for me to give my cat the attention he wanted. I answered, smiling about the events of yesterday as Yayarosa blinked. You own a cat, Shiro? She questioned, her expression showing confusion as I nodded. Oh, I've never mentioned K to you before. He's a little kitten I found abandoned on the streets, so I took him in. I would love to show you next time, I said, Yayarozu nodding with a smile, saying she looked forward to meeting K. We chatted about different things until the bell rang, and Aizawa-sensei entered, shocking the whole class as he was bandaged from head to toe. Aizawa-sensei, you're already back. Aren't your injuries still healing? Kirishima exclaimed, and everyone questioned him about why he came until he said that his well-being was irrelevant right now. There are much more pressing matters than my own well-being. The battle is not yet over. He said, silence falling upon us as some had fear in their eyes. The battle? Don't tell me. More villains. I stayed silent, unsure of how to respond as Aizawa-sensei continued. The annual UA High's Sports Festival is coming up soon. He merely answered, and everyone sighed in relief as chatter filled the silence. I almost forgot this was an actual school. Kaminari chuckled as the others began to get excited about the sports festival. But isn't it a bit too soon to hold the sports festival right after the villain attack? Midoriya spoke up, and everyone looked over at Aizawa-sensei. The sports festival is too important an event to delay. The other teachers have agreed that holding the festival after the attack shows that UA will not falter or be daunted by any threat. This year, the festival's police and security will be 5 times the regular number for safety precautions. He explained, then further elaborated on the sports festival. During the past years, the Olympics would be the main sports event that gathered everyone from around the world. But after Quirks emerged, UA High's sports festival has taken that place and is now in the spotlight. The Olympics is now merely a shadow of its former glory. He continued, and everyone listened intently. Heroes are going to be there as scouts. Yaoyorozu mentioned, earning a nod of agreement from Aizawa-sensei as he continued. This event is your chance to be noticed by pro heroes, who will be present during the festival to scout for new sidekicks and partners. This is held every year, which means you get 3 chances in total. So don't waste it and make it work. He said, eyeing each and every one of us before giving his last announcement before proceeding with regular classes. You have 2 weeks to train and prepare for the festival. So make use of it and win. Lunchtime. I had grabbed my lunch after waiting in line for what felt like ages. With my tray in hand, I scanned the cafeteria for an empty table. My eyes landed on Todoroki, who was sitting alone with his usual meal in front of him. I decided to approach him, catching his attention. Hey Shōto. You don't mind if I join you, right? We practically sit together during lunch every time, I joked, placing my food down across from him as he nodded. After a brief moment of silence, I swallowed the bite of food in my mouth and turned to Todoroki. So, Shōto, do you have any plans for the 2 weeks of prep? I asked, taking a sip of my drink while he pondered. I don't think I've thought of anything yet, he replied, prompting a grin to spread across my face as an idea struck me. Then how about we train together? It'll be fun. I could teach you how to wield a sword, and you could teach me a few combat moves. I suggested, watching as he considered it before nodding. That seems fine. So when does our training commence, Shiro? He asked, and I already had a date in mind as I grinned. Tomorrow. After school. I know a great place to train. X. School had just ended, and I was packing my things, getting ready to leave the classroom. As I picked up my bag and turned towards the doors, I gasped at the sight of so many students crowded at the entrance. What the? I muttered, standing still as I surveyed the sea of students gathered by our class. My classmates looked just as astonished. They're scouting the competition, coming over to check out the class that fought against villains. But it doesn't matter, I'll rise to the top. Now move aside, Bakugo said, slinging his bag over his shoulder though Ida was behind him, insisting he shouldn't call people names as he started to push through the crowd until someone blocked his path. Are all the kids in the hero course like this one? A bored voice reached my ears, and I turned towards the door, looking over Kirishima's shoulder to see Shinso standing there, his expression unimpressed as he rubbed the back of his neck. I have to say, I'm a bit disillusioned if this is what you're offering, he said, staring directly at Bakugo, who merely stared back. Those of us who didn't make it into the hero course are stuck in general studies and other tracks. Did you know that? Do you know that if we perform well at the sports festival, the school board might consider a transfer for us? I understand the reverse is also possible for you, he taunted, causing some of my classmates to gasp in shock at this new information. Huh. Bakugo said, staring at Shinso as the latter maintained his gaze, unflinching. It's time to knock you off your high horse. A lot of us will be participating in the sports festival as well. Consider it a declaration of war, he said, his eyes scanning the class before landing on me, widening slightly before returning to their original bored look. Hey, I'm from Class 1B next door. I heard you guys fought some villains and wanted to know more, but all I'm seeing is this arrogant guy. A boy shouted, his silver hair bouncing as he jumped up from behind the crowd. You better not make fools of the hero course at this event, the guy yelled, leaving as soon as he finished, leaving me frozen in place as I braced for the failure and humiliation that was sure to follow. Wait, Yujirake, what are you doing to us? Thanks to you, we've got a whole mob of haters now. Kirishima complained, Bakugo turning back to him with a dismissive click of his tongue. So, who cares? As long as I make it to the top, these little nuisances won't matter, he replied before walking away, leaving Kirishima shedding a few tears over how manly that statement was. Ignoring their comments, I walked towards the front where I still saw Shinso, who was looking around the class until our eyes met. Shinso, so you really are in this school, huh? I smiled, standing in front of him as my classmates stared in shock. Yeah, you weren't lying when you said you're from the hero course. But don't expect me to go easy on you just because we know each other, he said, a slight smirk appearing on his lips as I chuckled and nodded. Wouldn't dream of it. I look forward to seeing you in the hero course soon, Shinso. I wished him luck, and he thanked me, wishing me good luck in return before leaving, the crowd of students long gone as I stood there with dozens of pairs of eyes on me. You know him? They exclaimed, and I sweat dropped, laughing nervously. The days flew by quickly, and soon it was the first day that Todoroki and I were set to train together. I waited for him to pack up his things before we exited the classroom, chatting about schoolwork and our training plans. The place I suggested for our training? An abandoned train depot that had long been forgotten. Is this legal, Shiro? Todoroki asked, glancing around at the rusted train carts and debris surrounding us. Yeah, I usually come here to train, so I see no problem, I replied with a smile, stopping in the middle of the old rusted train tracks, where carts and old parts formed a sort of ring. Okay, so first things first, can you control what your ice does? I began, watching him blink in confusion as he shook his head. Not much. I can mostly freeze things or create ice spikes, he answered, and I hummed in understanding, clapping my hands with a smile. I guess we need to work on that then. It's time we train to reach the top, Shōto. The clock strikes 7. To be continued. Uniform is worn properly. A white dress shirt is worn underneath the school blazer, and a red tie is tied neatly. The school skirt ends above mid-thigh, with socks that go up to below the knee and brown shoes. Personal information. Likes. Reading. Stuff like picture books. Blood type. Relatives. Mr. Yaoyorozu, father unknown. Mrs. Yaoyorozu, mother unknown. Birthplace, Aichi Prefecture. School status. Power, 25D. Speed, 35C. Technique, 45B. Intelligence, 65S. Cooperation, 55. Class ranks. First in Quirk Apprehension Test Studies rank unknown. I guess we gotta work on that then. It's time we train to get to the top, Shōto. X, Shiro's view X. Come on, Shōto. You gotta think harder and imagine what you want to create. Or else it's not going to work. I exclaimed, standing in front of him as he nodded, sweat rolling down his forehead as he concentrated on what he wanted to create from his ice again. It's not working. He panted, giving up as he slumped his shoulders, the area around us littered with failed attempts of Todoroki trying to form things with his quirk. Maybe a different method then. I muttered, thinking of more ways that could possibly help Todoroki materialize ice-made items. For the past few days, both Todoroki and I had been coming to this old train depot to train after school. We would usually start off with warm-ups, then spar without quirks, and I would help him with his quirk abilities, which was happening right now. By the way, Shiro, how do you know these types of methods in the first place? He asked, my whole figure tensing up as he looked at me for an answer. Well, I had a friend back in Europe who had a quirk that worked somewhat similarly to yours. The both of us would hang out, and she told me, I explained, my answer a bit hurried as Todoroki accepted it. I see, he said, and I hummed, turning my head to see the sun about to set, painting the sky with hues of orange, yellow, and pink. It's getting late, Shōto. Maybe we should continue this next time? I suggested, and Todoroki got up from where he sat, dusting off his trousers and nodding. Of course, I'll be going then. See you tomorrow, Shiro, he said, and I waved after him as we headed in different directions. Kay? I'm back, I called, and the familiar sound of meowing and light footsteps approached as my cat came closer. Meow. Kay meowed, nuzzling his head against my ankle, making me giggle as I picked him up and walked to my room. You stay here, Kay. I'll go take a quick shower first, then I'll prepare dinner, okay? I smiled, petting his head as he purred, gently setting him down on my bed as he curled up. X. Jumping onto my soft bed, I sighed. A meow resounded next to me as I saw Kay climbing up to rest on my stomach. Buddy, you'll never leave me, right? I questioned, and Kay looked up to meet my eyes as he purred, nuzzling his head against my palm. Meow, he seemed to say, as if promising to always stay by my side, making me smile. Thanks, Kay. Picking up the little guy, I laid him onto the pillow next to mine as I closed my eyes, letting sleep overcome me. Arriving at the class doors, I slid them open and walked in, noticing that half of my classmates were already there. This morning, I had woken up late because I was feeling extra lazy, which happens every so often. Yo, Kurayami! Kirishima waved, a grin on his face while I smiled and waved back. Good morning, I greeted, with Kaminari joining in as the two of them greeted me with grins. Yo, Kurayami-chan. Want to have lunch with us today? Kaminari asked, slinging an arm around my shoulder as I giggled. Sure, why not? Who's there? I asked, and they pointed at each other. We'll be there. Then there's Shōto and Bakugo. Kirishima said, the last name making my heart race as I glanced behind my shoulder at the ash-blonde male. On second thought, I think I'll skip. I hurriedly replied, feeling cold sweat on my forehead as the two boys whined for me to join them. Come on, Kurayami-chan, it won't be that bad. Plus, you always hang out with Todoroki, Kaminari begged, clutching my arm with pleading eyes, making me feel uncomfortable and guilty. Yeah. It'll be fun, you don't have to listen to what Bakugo says, Kirishima added, the two practically on their knees as they convinced me to eat with them. With a sigh, I shrugged and looked at them, a small smile on my lips despite my discomfort. Fine. I'll try, I murmured, and the two perked up, giving each other a high five. Great, they exclaimed, grinning as I sighed again, throwing a glance at Bakugo for a moment as our eyes met. With a scoff, he turned his head away towards the window, a frown on his lips as he stared out at the scenery outside. If only. Lunch takes. The bell rang, and the students headed to the cafeteria as I grabbed a little bento box from my drawer. Let's go. Shōto cheered, looping her arm around mine as she led me to their table in the cafeteria. Plopping me down in the seat next to her, Kirishima and Kaminari were already there, the blonde sitting on my other side while Kirishima sat across from me, Bakugo already there beside the redhead. You came? Kaminari grinned, slinging his arm back around my shoulder as I pushed it off, giving an innocent smile as he pouted. Good thing I told Shōto beforehand, and he agreed to sit with Midoriya and the others. Well, I did promise to show up, I said, taking the lid off my bento as the smell of the food wafted out. Wow. I never knew you could cook, Kirishima said, eyeing the food in front of me as Kaminari literally drooled next to me. You never asked. Taking my chopsticks, I picked up the braised beef and took a bite. It looks so good. Shōto piped in, also peeking at my food. Well, don't stare at mine. You have your own food. And there's only 10 minutes left. With that final statement, all three of them began to hurriedly finish their meals, making me scrunch my nose at the sight. Oh yeah, Kurayami, you never really told us about your hair yet, Kaminari said, his mouth full of food as the others nodded in agreement. Oh well, take a closer look then. I smiled, leaning my head down slightly as they inched closer, gasps escaping their lips. "So it's died," one of them exclaimed, and I nodded at her question. "Well, we never really noticed the black at your roots. Are you some kind of secret cosplayer?" Kirishima asked, a grin spreading across his face. I blinked at his question, suddenly feeling heat rise to my cheeks as I tried to calm my blush. "ES. CC cosplayer?" I stuttered, shocked at their theory, until the sudden scraping of a chair sliding on the floor interrupted us. Looking up, I saw Bakugo had already finished his food and was getting up to leave. "Katsu!" I sighed, continuing to finish the remainder of my bento before excusing myself from the table and heading back to class. Opening the classroom doors, I noticed everyone wasn't there yet, probably still chatting in the cafeteria, but I spotted an ash-blonde boy sitting at his desk. Sensing my presence, he looked up and glared. "What are you staring at?" he snapped, still glaring at me as I sighed and shook my head while walking to my seat. "Heroes always get remembered, huh?" I muttered, chuckling at the little quote as I sat down, not noticing the blonde's intense stare. After school X. "Come on, Shōto. Let's go already," I whined, stopping for the 10th time to wait for him to catch up. "Why are you rushing?" he asked, hands in his pockets as he walked to my side. "I have to give Kei his medicine after this. He's sick." I sighed, worried about my cat as I imagined him suffering through his illness. "Well, we could skip today's training." He said this casually, making me look at him in shock. "Are you sure? There's only a few days left." I felt guilty about causing Todoroki to lose a day of important training. "It's fine. I'll practice on small objects while you tend to your cat." He said this with confidence, and though I was still unsure, I nodded hesitantly. "Okay then. Follow me." We walked out of the gates and headed to the train station to catch the usual train, boarding and waiting to reach the station closest to my house. After a while of silence, we finally arrived at our stop and got off, heading in the direction of my home. "Here we are." I opened the front door and instructed him to place his shoes by the rack, which he did without question. "You can put your bag on the couch, Shōto. I'll go fetch Kei from my room." I walked up the stairs and opened my bedroom door, seeing Kei lying on my bed with a look of discomfort. "Hey there, buddy. I'm back early today," I whispered, gently picking him up and heading back to the main room. "Meow." Kei meowed, nuzzling his head against my palm gently as I smiled softly at him. "Hey, Shōto. Meet my cat Kei?" Looking up from Kei, I was shocked to see another black-haired male standing in front of Todoroki. "Dad." The clock falters. To be continued. KunoHikaYashi. June 21, 2018. Chapter End. Sports Festival. "Hey, Shōto. Meet my cat Kei?" Looking up from Kei, I was shocked to see another black-haired male standing in front of Todoroki. "Dad." Blinking twice at my father's sudden appearance, I walked forward and placed Kei down onto the couch, grabbing the medicine that was on the coffee table as I sat down. "What are you doing here?" I asked bluntly, administering the medicine to my cat without meeting my father's gaze. "I came by just to see how you're doing at UA. Are you really not happy to see your old man?" he questioned, crossing his arms as Todoroki remained silent. "I saw you about a month ago. Shōto, could you help me hold Kei down for a bit? Calm him if he squirms," I said, and Todoroki nodded, sitting next to me and picking Kei up onto his lap. I gently punctured the syringe into Kei's side, making sure it wouldn't hurt him. Kei jumped and squirmed at the sudden sensation, but Todoroki held him down, stroking his fur to calm him, which worked. "Ah, don't be like that, Shiro. Your mother and I were so worried about you when we heard your class was attacked," my father said, crouching in front of me as he petted Kei. I had already finished injecting the medicine and was packing it up. "You don't have to worry about me, Dad. I'm fine, just a few cuts and bruises, but that won't stop me." I smiled softly, getting up from the couch and heading to the kitchen. Third-person view X. As the bicolored female walked through the archway into her kitchen, the raven-haired male turned his head towards the other person in the house. "So, you're her friend?" Kage Kurayami, Shiro's father, asked. catching the boy's attention as he nodded. Yes, my name is Shōto Todoroki. I apologize for not introducing myself sooner. Bowing his head in apology, the black-haired man raised an eyebrow at the mention of his name. Todoroki? You're Enji's kid? He questioned, making Shōto stiffen as he nodded slightly. Must be pretty strong then. Tell me who's stronger. This made the two-toned male look up in confusion, unsure of what the man was talking about. Who's stronger? He repeated, earning a nod from Kage as he pointed to the kitchen archway. Yeah, you are Shiro. Surely, my little girl would be strong. Shiro's view X. Who's stronger? My ears perked up in alarm at that question directed towards Todoroki. Yeah, you are Shiro. Surely, my little girl would be strong. Taking this as my cue to cut the conversation off, I dashed out of the kitchen. Dad, I'm sure you have important things to do, right? You shouldn't be late. I panicked, pushing him toward the front door as he blinked in confusion. What are you talking abo? I pushed him out the door, looking back at Todoroki with a twitching smile. I'll be right back. Kei will keep you company. With that, I slammed the door behind me, turning my attention to my father, who looked at me suspiciously. What's going on, kid? Why the rush? My father asked, confused about why I suddenly pushed him out of the house. Why did you ask him who's stronger? X. Both my dad and I finally finished our talk and walked back into the house to see Todoroki lying on the couch with Kei on his stomach. The image made my heart melt. It was just so pure and beautiful that I couldn't take my eyes off the scene in front of me. I snapped back to reality as I caught Todoroki's attention. Sorry about that, Shōto. It's getting late. You probably should head back now, huh? I said, looking out the window to see the sun almost gone as night approached. Yeah, I guess I should be heading back now. Thank you for inviting me over, Shiro. Bye. Getting up from his position, he walked toward the door, waving one last time before closing it behind him. It was silent between my father and me for a few seconds, no one uttering a word, only the sound of Kei rubbing against my legs and purring. So, Enji's kid, huh? And you two are on a first-name basis too. My father teased, inching closer to me with a raised eyebrow and a smirk as I groaned. Seriously, Dad? Are we doing this now? I whined, falling onto my couch with my eyes closed, Kei jumping onto my lap. Fine. UA is going to have their annual sports festival soon, right? I'm going to be there to watch. Dad mentioned, sitting next to me as I snuck a glance at him. You're scouting? You haven't been in your Japan agency for months, though. I said, stroking Kei slowly as my father sighed. That's the reason I came back. It's about time your old man gets back into Japan's spotlight. He boasted, making me snort with a lopsided smirk on my lips. Yeah. Oh, great and mighty Aetherus, the hero of the night. I mocked, making my dad laugh. I'm the best and you know it, kiddo. He said, ruffling my hair lightly as we continued our conversation. The 2 weeks of training flew by quickly. Both Todoroki and I had been giving it our all to get stronger. We were currently in our P uniforms, waiting in the prep room for our class along with the others. Is everyone good and ready? The event's about to begin. Ida rushed, doing his regular hand movements as the class chatted away. I was sitting next to Yaoyorozu while taking a sip from my water bottle. Midoriya. I heard someone say, making me turn my attention to see Todoroki staring Midoriya down, making the boy nervous. Todoroki, what is it? The greenette asked, Todoroki maintaining his stoic expression as he spoke up. Objectively speaking, I'm stronger than you. That statement made the whole class stop and listen in on the conversation, the tension thick as Midoriya jolted in surprise. Sure. Midoriya muttered, confused about why Todoroki was suddenly saying such things, and I was also questioning his motives. All Might's got his eye on you, doesn't he? Now I'm not about to pry into that, but I will challenge you. He said, making my eyes widen in shock as Midoriya stood frozen. Ooh, a declaration of war from the strongest in class. Kaminari exclaimed, while Kirishima got up from his seat and approached. Todoroki, placing a hand on his shoulder. Hey man, why pick a fight now? We're about to go on. I don't really care. I'm not pretending to be anyone's friend here. Todoroki cut the redhead off, pushing his hand away as silence followed. I abruptly got up from my own seat. You've gone too far, Shōto. I spoke up, walking towards Midoriya, who looked as if he was contemplating what to say back. I don't know why you felt the need to tell me this, Todoroki. Midoriya muttered, staring at his clenched fists. I gave him a concerned look, placing my hand on one of his shoulders in a gesture of comfort. You're clearly stronger, and I can't measure up to most of the others here in skill. Even Kurayami-chan is better than me. His voice grew louder, his last statement surprising me a little. Hey, Izuku, don't be so hard on yourself. There's no need to, but... He suddenly cut me off, startling me slightly as I stared at him. Everyone, even the kids from the other courses, are aiming for the top. And let me say this. Looking up from the ground, his eyes shone with newfound determination, making me smile in relief. I'm not gonna fall behind. I'm going for it too, with everything I've got. He declared, looking at Todoroki, who maintained his stoic expression throughout. Way to go, Izuku. You'll do great someday. I thought, admiring the boy next to me, knowing that he would definitely become one of the best heroes out there someday. Right. Was all Todoroki said, turning towards the doors that were opening, signaling that it was our cue to head out. It's time. It's finally the day of the sports festival. The day I'll show them just how strong I can be. It's time, everybody. The first years are coming out. The loud voice of Present Mike echoed through the long halls, the footsteps of my classmates and me padding softly against the roars of the crowds. It's UA's sports festival. The one time each year our fledgling heroes compete in a grand battle. He continued to explain, but I barely paid attention due to the loud thumping of my heart. After hearing what seemed like the introduction of our class, if you can call, the miraculous rising stars who brushed off a villain attack with their steely willpower, an introduction from Present Mike, we finally emerged from the dark tunnel. The light was blinding for a moment as the sight of excited people and expectant pro heroes came into view. It's Class 1A. Roars shook the ground as we made our way to our designated spot, Present Mike continuing to call forth participants from the other classes. The unfortunate part about the class introductions was how the crowd gradually quieted after our class came out. It's kinda discouraging for the other classes, huh? I muttered, glancing toward where Class 1C was, spotting Shinso with his usual expression. A loud crack snapped my attention back to the front, where the pro hero Midnight stood with a whip in hand, her usual hero costume on as she stood on a small stage. It's time for the athlete's oath, she said, scanning the crowd with a confident look, briefly glancing at me with an encouraging smile before returning her gaze to the main crowd. Should she really be in high school? Tokoyami questioned next to me, a snort escaping my lips as Midnight told him to be quiet upon hearing his comment. Your student representative is Katsuki Bakugo from Class 1A. Exclamations of shock filled the room as Bakugo calmly walked up to the stage, standing with a nonchalant expression, hands in his pockets. The athlete's oath, make no mistake about it, but I'm going to place first. An uproar followed his statement, our class filled with shouts of disbelief. Don't get cocky, Class 1A. Why must you show such disrespect for the dignity of this event? You arrogant fool. You all would make great stepping stones, I'd say. He pointed his thumbs over his shoulder, then turned and walked down the steps, returning to where our class was. Overconfident JRK. I'll be the one to take him down, the silver-haired guy from Class 1B declared, while I merely stared at Bakugo with a knowing look. That's not overconfidence. He's taking this seriously. He's motivating himself, telling himself not to lose this time. Now, let's get on with the first event. Midnight announced, a screen appearing behind her as everyone quieted down. These are the qualifiers. This stage is where many are sent home crying every year. And the fateful first event this year is... She paused, glancing at the screen behind her as big bold letters popped up. This? An obstacle course race. Midnight explained how it would work as a large gate opened, revealing barricades outside. Our school promotes freedom in all things. So as long as you don't go off course, anything is fair game. Racers, to your positions. All the students rushed toward the gate, pushing to get to the front of the group. Standing with a few of my friends at the back, I got into a ready stance, knowing exactly what was about to happen. Start! Everyone dashed forward, trying to make it past the gate as I sprinted, feeling the quick shift in wind temperature drop, signaling me to jump. Ice and frost covered the ground where I once stood, and I landed on the icy surface, skating forward and leaping over the heads of students who were stuck at the starting gate, either by ice or by other students. The first filter of the race is the gate. I grinned, stepping on someone's head before jumping off, hearing them yell at me, which made me chuckle. Kurayami? I heard someone call, turning my head to see Kirishima next to me as we exited the gate, a few others joining us as we burst through. Too easy, Shōto! I yelled, the bicolored male turning back to see us escaping his intended trap. I won't let you get ahead that easily, Nuff. Bakugo declared, explosions erupting from his palms to keep him airborne. I stepped off one more head before landing on the ground, sprinting away with a few others. Even Mineta managed to escape the trap, but he didn't last long before something knocked him back. Multiple targets acquired. A robotic voice announced as dozens of robots appeared, surrounding us. These are the faux villains from the entrance exams, someone yelled, loud whirring approaching as a giant robot appeared, more following behind it and blocking Todoroki's path. Every obstacle course needs obstacles. The first barrier. Robo Inferno. Present Mike declared, the giant robots looming over us as their scanners glowed a menacing red. So, these are the faux villains they used for everyone else's test. Todoroki muttered, looking up at the robots in front of him, while Yaoyorozu questioned how UA could afford to build so many. So they're using them for the sports festival too, huh? I said, clenching and unclenching my fists as I smirked at the robots. I kind of wish they'd give us something more threatening, both Todoroki and I remarked, my legs sprinting toward the nearest robot blocking my path when a sudden chill came from my side. With one swift motion, Todoroki sent ice spiking toward the robots, freezing those in front of him as he swiftly skated through. I jumped onto the arm of the frozen robot in front of me, thanks, Shōto, and heard an eerie creak from below as I stepped off, landing on the other side where Todoroki was just a few meters away. Izuku, congratulations! I jogged up to Midoriya, who was gazing at the crowd until he noticed me beside him. Thanks. But I saw you slow down. You could have won, but you let me. Why? He mumbled, his eyes filled with guilt and confusion as I merely smiled. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm clearly giving my all here. Again. Damn it. That little. The ash blonde cursed, glaring at the ground below as heavy pants escaped his mouth, sweat rolling down his forehead. However, the bicolored male next to him remained silent, simply staring forward at a certain smiling female classmate standing by the green-haired winner. That was awesome, Deku, the brunette, Achiko Uraraka, exclaimed, her eyes shining as she approached the two. Uraraka. Ida. The greenette, Izuku Midoriya, called, noticing the blue-haired male following behind her with a crestfallen expression. To lose a race, of all things, with my quirk. It's clear I still have progress to make. Tenya Ida realized, determination filling his face as he looked ahead. All of us will give our best here, Ida-kun. Let's try hard, yeah? Shiro Kurayami said, standing next to the bluinette with a smile, the latter nodding in agreement. So it's finally over. Let's check out the results. Midnight, the R-rated hero, announced as a screen displayed the race placings, and everyone gathered around to see. Izuku Midoriya, Shiro Kurayami, Shōto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo, Burashiza, Juzo Hananuki, Tenya Ida, Fumikage Tokoyami, Antasiro, Ajiro Kirishima, Tetsu Mashireo Ojiro, Yosetsu Owaze, Tsuyu Azui, Mizo Sho, Rikido Sato, Achiko Uraraka, Momo Yaoyorozu, Minoru Mineta, Mina Ishido, Koji Koda, Kyokager, Senkaibar, Koziai Tsuburaba, Denki Kaminari, Kojiro Bando, Reiko Kanagi, Hitoshi Shinso, Dasuka Kendo, Jirota Shishida, Shirhai Kurwaro, Vyukota, Hiryurin, Nirenjiki Shōto, Kinoko Komori, Tagaru Kamakiri, Nito Minoma, Toru Hagakure, Setsuna Tokage, Manga Fukudashi, Meihatsum, Yuga Oyama. The top 42 of the qualifiers will move on. For those who placed lower, don't worry, we have another way for you to show your skills. The chief referee Pro Hero announced, as the dismayed looks of the lower-placing students returned to their stands while the others remained. And now the main selection really begins. The press corps will be on the edge of their seats, so give it all you've got. She continued, the screen behind her going black as all the students waited in anticipation. Now on to the second event. I already know what it is, of course. Next up is a human cavalry battle. Bold letters appeared on the monitor, and Midnight proceeded to explain the rules as the students slowly grasped everything. Our first-place participant is worth 10 million points. With that said, all the contestants turned their heads toward the green-haired boy, whose eyes widened and sweat trickled down his face from all the gazes. X, Shiro's view X. Poor Izuku. Wait, so that means I've got 205. I thought, looking at Midoriya with sympathetic eyes as I shook my head, scanning the different students who made it through. Okay, so we have to form a team and gather enough points to make it to the next event. I better find a few exceptionally cooperative and reasonable students to work with, I muttered, my eyes searching for students who were sticking with their own classmates and avoiding Midoriya as much as possible. Seeing that most of my classmates had already formed their teams, I sighed in defeat until I noticed a group of students who were one person short. I approached them. As I got closer, they turned their heads toward me, confusion evident on their faces as they stared at my approaching figure. Hi. I'm Shiro Kurayami from 1A. You guys are from 1B, right? I introduced myself, smiling nervously as the one with silver hair spoke first. Huh? What's a 1A student doing here? He exclaimed, glaring at me, while another student with vine-like hair smiled warmly. It's a pleasure to meet you, Kurayami-sen. My name is Ibara Shiozaki. May I ask if you are here to join our team? She asked, a light seemingly shining down on her as I laughed nervously and nodded. Ah yes. I hope you all will accept my offer. My points might be helpful to you, I said, noticing the guy still seemed skeptical about my presence. Ah yes. Thank you for your help, Kurayami-san. Let's work well together from now on. Shiozaki smiled, making me smile back as I nodded, glancing back at the guy. I'm sorry about Bakugo from before. Not all of us are like that, it's just him. I hope you can forgive his attitude, I apologized, bowing my head slightly as his eyes widened before he looked away, a faint blush creeping onto his cheeks. Fine, I'll let it pass just this once. Just so you know, the name's Tetsu, and remember that, he exclaimed, turning back with a grin, making me smile. Right? Let's do our best here. Tetsu, Shiozaki, and... I looked at the last guy who had remained silent until he blinked. Juzo Hananuki, he simply answered, giving my hand a firm shake as we all began to plan our path to victory. What? You don't have a quirk? Tetsu exclaimed, shock evident on his face, and I chuckled nervously. Sorry I left that part out. I thought it wouldn't matter as long as we have teamwork. I confessed, guilt bubbling up as I realized how useless I might be to them. Not having a quirk but still making it this far. Such determination. Hananuki muttered, his voice low and soft as he stared at me, his eyes filled with admiration. That's too much. It's just luck on my part. I stammered, my hands suddenly grasped by Shiozaki, who smiled at me. Warmly. Nonsense, Kurayami-san. I believe that with your hard work and ability alone, we can continue our path to victory, she encouraged, making a blush creep onto my face at her kind words. Thank you, Shiozaki-san. Tetsu-san, I might have a plan for this event, I said, confidence beginning to build within me as Tetsu looked at me, confused. X. Formed your teams? Made your plans? Well, too bad if you haven't. Here we go, the countdown to this intense battle royale. Present Mike exclaimed, the crowds cheering in excitement as all the teams got into their positions. "You guys ready? I hope your plan works, Kurayami-sen," Tetsu said, the headband wrapped around his forehead displaying our total scores in bold letters. Team Tetsu. Tetsu, 150. Ibara Shizuki, 180. Juzo Hananuki, 185. Shiro Kurayami, 205. Total, 720 points. "Trust me on this, Tetsu-san," I said, holding his left side while Shiozaki held his right, with Hananuki in front. "Forward." With that, we all ran, dodging other teams as they began to steal points and avoiding any quirks heading our way. "Shiozaki-san. It's time," I called, and she nodded as she activated her quirk, her green vine-like hair growing and reaching toward the nearby teams. "This is a mistake I've made," Shiozaki lamented as we dashed around, evading the grasping hands of other contestants while snatching their headbands. Looking over my shoulder, I noticed a couple of teams gaining on us, their arms reaching out to grab our points. "Hananuki-san, it's your turn. 2 teams are closing in fast," I called out, and he nodded, stomping his foot on the ground. Suddenly, shouts of surprise erupted behind us, and I grinned. Glancing back again, I saw the 2 teams that had been chasing us stuck in the ground, their feet struggling to escape the sunken earth. "Sharp turn left," Tetsu commanded, and we quickly pivoted, narrowly avoiding a sudden explosion from the front, courtesy of Bakugo and his team. That was close. I sighed in relief, looking up at Tetsu, who still had our points secured on his forehead, with a few more around his neck. "Midoriya's open," Tetsu shouted, urging us forward, and we complied, getting close enough to reach for the points. "Almost got what?" Suddenly, the bandana around Tetsu's forehead, which held our original points, was brushed by a long tongue. "Tsuyu." I gritted my teeth, glancing forward to see her teamed up with Shoji and Mineta, an unexpected combination as they peeked out from the gap made by Shoji's arms. "Be careful, Tetsu-san," I warned, aware of our precarious position. We were somewhat safe with our points, but we needed to hold our ground or risk losing everything. "Let's go after the lower points for now. It might be safer," Hananuki suggested, noticing that most teams were clustering to target higher points. "Right." We nodded in agreement and set off to slip past the teams behind us, stealthily stealing their points without being noticed. "Kaminari!" A sudden shout caught my attention, and I turned to see Todoroki's team, Kaminari grinning as sparks crackled around him. "Oh no!" My eyes widened, and I tapped Tetsu to alert him. When he saw what I was pointing at, his expression mirrored my shock and dread. Indiscriminate shock, 1.3 million volts. Before we could escape, a wave of electricity surged over us, leaving us momentarily frozen in place as a layer of ice spread across our feet, immobilizing us completely. "What's this?" Todoroki has taken out a whole group of teams with just one fierce attack. Present Mike exclaimed, the crowd erupting in excitement while we remained stuck to the ground. "I'll be taking those." "Thanks." A monotone voice interrupted, and I saw someone rush past us. Tetsu and the others fell silent, and I quickly realized who it was, glancing to the side to see Shinso smirking with our points in hand. "Too bad you won't know about this." His eyes flicked down for a moment, meeting mine, and I couldn't help but smirk and wink back at him. "Correct. Time's almost up, everyone. Let's count it down. 10. Everything felt like it was in slow motion as Shinso stared at me in shock while they ran past, and I held his gaze as the countdown began. Suddenly, the ice around us began to crack, snapping us out of our daze as we looked around in confusion, just as a loud horn sounded throughout the arena. "Let's see who the top 4 teams are right now." I helped Tetsu down, and his shocked cries over losing our points made me glance toward Shinso. In first place, Team Todoroki. In second, Team Bakugo. Present Mike announced, Bakugo hitting the ground in frustration as he shouted in anger. In third, Team Tetsuha. "But it's Team Shinso." I looked back at my teammates to see their crestfallen expressions, clearly stunned by how we had lost all our points. And in fourth place, Team Midoriya. I smiled with guilt and patted Tetsu on the back in an attempt to comfort him. What happened to us? How did we end up with 0 points? He muttered, while Shiozaki held her hands close to her chest. I dare say this is divine retribution for the unfair way we took the dwarf's points, she said, recalling how she had used her quirk to snatch Mineta's points from behind. We'll proceed to the afternoon portion after the break. Everyone dispersed, heading to the cafeteria for food. I smiled at my 3 teammates, prompting them to look up. Hey, come on. We tried our best. We'll know to try harder next year. Let's do our best. Kurayami-san. Tetsu trailed off, awestruck by my sudden enthusiasm as small tears formed in the corners of his eyes. So manly, he said, clenching a fist, making me sweat drop as I glanced at Shiozaki and Hananuki. Thank you, Kurayami-san. For cheering us up, Hananuki smiled, and Shiozaki nodded in agreement as I merely smiled back at them. Well, come on. Let's go and grab some food to lift our spirits. With that, the 4 of us headed toward the bustling cafeteria, hoping to find a table. Wah, it's so crowded, I murmured, scanning the room with my food in hand, searching for a place where we could sit together. There must be a table where we can enjoy lunch together, Shiozaki said hopefully, standing beside me while Tetsu and Hananuki followed behind. Over there. I see some seats by Kendo's table, Hananuki pointed out, gesturing toward a table where a blonde and a ginger were seated. Hey Kendo. Monoma. Tetsu called out, walking toward the 2 as they turned to look at us. Hey Tetsu. Who's that? The ginger asked, glancing at me while the blonde held a drink in his hand. Right, you don't know me. I'm Shiro Kurayami, nice to meet you. I smiled and bowed my head in greeting, receiving a friendly smile back from the girl while the blonde merely observed. Likewise, Kurayami-san. I'm Itsuka Kendo, and this is Nito Monoma. We're from Class 1B, Kendo introduced as we took our seats, with me sitting between Kendo and Shiozaki while Tetsu and Hananuki settled across from us next to Monoma. You guys are from the hero course too? Well, I'm from Class 1. Sorry if Bakugo made it seem like we're all self-absorbed. But I promise, it's just him, I said nervously, recalling Bakugo's earlier comments. Suddenly, a loud noise caught my attention, and I turned to see Monoma staring at me with an intense expression, making me shrink back slightly. You're from 1A? And you, with all that pride, are still willing to sit with us 1B kids? Are you trying to find our weaknesses to report back to your class? He said, a dark aura surrounding him as I leaned back, feeling a bit intimidated. I would never. We're not like that at all. I stuttered, earning a mocking laugh from Monoma, while Kendo sighed and patted my back. Don't mind him. He's always like this toward your class, she said, pushing Monoma back into his seat as he continued to watch me with a strange intensity. Alright. Well, Monoma-san, I really hope you'll change your perspective on my class. I'd love to be friends with you guys, I said, looking at him. I noticed a flicker of surprise in his expression as he lowered his guard, staring at my genuine smile. We'd be honored to be friends with you, Kurayami-san. Shiozaki cheered, taking my hands in hers as I turned to her, while Tetsu grinned from across the table. Yeah. You're not so bad, Kurayami. Definitely better than that blonde guy. Tetsu declared, referring to Bakugo, as Hananuki nodded in agreement. Thanks. I giggled, and we continued to enjoy our lunch, chatting and laughing together. See, Monoma? Not all of 1A is as bad as you said. Kurayami is one of them, Kendo pointed out, using her fork to gesture toward me as I laughed at Tetsu's antics. It's going to take a lot more to convince me about 1A. But I guess this girl will be an exception. Monoma muttered, glancing at me before returning to his food, a hint of color rising to his cheeks. Before we get to the final event, I have news for everyone who isn't in the running. This is still a sports festival, so we've prepared a recreational activity for all participants. Present Mike announced, and we all made our way from the arena tunnels to the center. Hey, Kurayami-san. Aren't they from your class? Kendo asked, making me turn to see what she was pointing at, my eyes widening in shock. We even brought cheerleaders from America to get you pumped up. What's this? I exclaimed, staring at the girls in cheerleader uniforms, pom-poms in hand, looking flustered. Class 1A? Why? I wondered, looking at the two boys who were snickering, feeling a wave of sympathy for them, knowing they had been tricked into this. Between the 16 members of the 4 winning teams, we'll have a formal tournament. A series of one-on-one battles. Present Mike continued, as a monitor displayed the matchup table, which was still blank. The matchups will be decided by drawing lots. Once that's settled, we'll move on to the festivities and then to the tournament itself. Midnight added, holding up a box labeled Lots, as she stood on a small stage, explaining how it would work. Excuse me. A hand raised, belonging to Ojiro, who looked guilty. I'd like to drop out, he said, shocking the entire class as we stared at him in disbelief. Ojiro, why? This is your chance to get noticed by the pros. Kirishima exclaimed, but Ojiro averted his gaze. The cavalry battle. I don't remember anything that happened until the very end. It must be my quirk. Ojiro said, his face filled with guilt as I glanced at Shinso, who was next to us. I know this is a great opportunity, and I understand how foolish it must seem to throw it away. But this final tournament, everyone else made it here with their own strength. Yet I'm standing here, and I don't even know how or why. I just can't take it, he said, clenching his fist and staring down with a sad expression, and I felt concern for him. You're overthinking it. Just show what you're made of in the tournament. Hagakure encouraged, while Ashido chimed in, saying she shouldn't be there either if that was the case. No. I'm talking about my pride here. I don't think it's right. And why are you girls dressed like that anyway? He covered his face with his hand, a hint of red on his cheeks. I can't remember anything either. I want to withdraw too. Someone from Class 1B shouted, causing shockwaves among their classmates as Midnight remained silent at the front. How naive and green. I like it. With a crack of her whip, she officially announced the withdrawals of both Ojiro and the other student, stating that members of Team Kendo would replace them. If that's the case, shouldn't it be them instead? I mean, we were practically immobilized the whole time. But they were giving it their all to keep what they had until the very end. Team Tetsu. Her words made me snap my head in her direction, shocked like the rest of my team as she smiled reassuringly. Don't worry, we're not colluding or anything. This just feels right, she said, glancing towards me as I smiled widely, warmth spreading through my body as I walked towards them. You guys. Tetsu's eyes glistened with tears, struggling to hold back his emotions. Thank you, Kendo-san, I replied, stepping next to Tetsu as she nodded back at me. Tetsu-san, you should seize the opportunity in the tournament. You're so headstrong and capable, I know you'll do great. I encouraged, turning to the silver-haired boy, who looked taken aback. Kurayami, I believe you should be the second one to take the last spot, Shiozaki said, leaving me momentarily speechless. Even though you know your limitations by joining UA without a quirk, you still gave it your all without hesitation. Your determination is truly admirable, and I hope you become a remarkable person someday, she said, grasping my hands with a kind smile that brought a few tears to my eyes. So be it, Midnight chimed in, smiling as she held the box once again. Tetsu and Kurayami bring us back to our 16 competitors. Kendo approached, patting me on the back with a grin as she looked at both Tetsu and me. Good luck, you two. Don't let our decision go to waste. As the clock struck 7, the matchups were announced. After we all drew our lots, the screen changed, displaying the names for the upcoming battles. Kaminari? I looked at the blonde, noticing his dejected expression as he sighed. I'm sorry, Kurayami-chan, but I won't be going easy on you, he said, a grin on his face as he gave a thumbs up, making me giggle in response. Same goes for me. Good luck, I encouraged, a hint of pink dusting his cheeks as he scratched the back of his neck. With that, we parted ways, and I sighed as I headed towards the tunnels. Now let's set aside the tournament for the time being and get on with the thrill-a-minute festivities. Present Mike announced, fireworks lighting up the sky as cheers erupted from the crowd. Hey guys. Are you ready? It was finally time for the one-on-one battles to begin. I stayed atop the balcony where our class was seated, next to Yaoyorozu, looking down at the battlefield prepared by Cementos. You've been through a lot to get here, but now it's time for the one-on-one tournament. You've only got yourself to rely on. Present Mike declared, the cheers from the crowd growing louder as I held an excited smile, knowing the first battle was going to be thrilling. Even if you're not a hero, this saying holds true. Spirit, technique, strength, wisdom, and knowledge. Use them all and do your best. His words resonated with me as I looked at the determined faces of my classmates before glancing at my own hands. I'll do my best. I'll be a hero, just you watch. Clenching my fist, I looked up with a determined smile. The first match. Despite his nervousness, it's Izuku Midoriya from the hero course. The green-haired boy emerged from a tunnel, his lips tight in a nervous smile as he cracked his fingers. Sorry, but this guy hasn't really done anything to stand out yet. It's Hitoshi Shinso from General Studies. The violet-haired boy walked out, a calm expression on his face as he strolled onto the battlefield. Good luck, you two. I know you can do it. I cheered, waving my hands to catch their attention as they looked up, seeing my wide smile. After Present Mike explained the rules, the battle began. The two stood still for a moment, exchanging words I couldn't hear until Midoriya charged forward, exclaiming something. No way, you idiot! I yelled, watching as he suddenly froze, his eyes going blank as Shinso smirked. Midoriya's frozen in place. He isn't even twitching. Could this be Shinso's quirk? Present Mike commented, shocked, as I leaned over the edge, my eyes fixed on the two of them. We barely knew this guy even existed, but now he sure is one to keep an eye on. I watched as Shinso spoke again, and Midoriya suddenly turned around, walking toward the edge of the battlefield. Whoa! Midoriya's following orders like a good little boy. Present Mike's words made me cringe. Did you seriously have to word it like that? I groaned, peeking through my fingers as I watched Midoriya continue to walk toward the edge. Come on, Izuku. Snap out of it. Suddenly, a gust of wind erupted from Midoriya's direction, halting him in his tracks as he turned around, his fingers bruised and discolored. What's this? Midoriya. He stopped. Cheers roared all around as Midoriya charged towards Shinso once again, pushing him backwards. The two finally engaged in a proper battle, throwing punches at one another. Come on. Gripping Shinso's arm, Midoriya suddenly threw him over his shoulder, slamming him onto the ground just as his feet crossed the boundary. Shinso is out of the ring. Midoriya moves onto the second round. Midnight announced, and the crowd went wild as I grinned, watching the two below. Getting up from the ground, both Shinso and Midoriya stood facing each other. Midoriya bowed, and they exchanged words before Shinso turned away and began to walk off. You were awesome out there, Shinso. Looking up, he saw the students from the General Studies department cheering and grinning down at him. Hey, Shinso! I shouted, catching his attention. He turned his head towards me, and I smiled widely at him. You did great. Didn't I say you'd be a great hero no matter what others say about you? Even the pro heroes agree, I said, hearing the many compliments from the heroes in the stands. Now come on. I'm still waiting to see you get into the hero course with me. You promised, right? I looked down at him, giving him a genuine smile. I noticed his slightly shocked expression before the smallest hint of a smile appeared on his lips. You sure are something, Kurayami. But yeah, I'll come for sure, so wait for me. He smiled back at me with content eyes before heading into the tunnels. Shinso. I smiled, not noticing the stares from my classmates and a certain bicolored male who regarded me with indifference. God, I hate these hallways. Where is that bathroom? I muttered, wandering aimlessly around the arena in search of the restroom. Sudden voices alerted me, and I followed the sound, spotting the pro-hero endeavor himself as he approached with his arms crossed. When he rounded the corner, his eyes fell on me, looming over me in an intimidating way as he glared. What are you looking at? He questioned, the flames of his mustache flickering slightly. I merely looked up at him with a calm expression. I want to mention something Endeavor. My bluntness made him raise an eyebrow as he remained silent. I know that you wish for Shōto to surpass you and all might with both of his quirks, I said, making him more curious as he continued to look at me. Shōto? Who are you to him to call him by his first name? He asked. I smirked, looking up at him. But whether he wishes to follow you is his own decision. You have no right to control him or what he does. It's his own quirk and his own future, so I suggest you support him as a good father should. With that, I stepped aside, walking a few paces before turning over my shoulder. And the name's Shiro Kurayami. Ring a bell, Enji Todoroki? I smirked one last time before leaving Endeavor in the hallway. The wait is over. Moving on, there they are. Present Mike announced as both Todoroki and Shiro walked out from their tunnels, the crowd cheering loudly. The cream of the crop. Yet the skies still as plain as they come. Hanta Shiro of the hero course. Shiro stretched his arms, a smile on his lips as he broke a sweat from that introduction. Versus the best of the best. Strongest of the strong. Shōto Todoroki, also of the hero course. Walking out with a serious expression, Todoroki remained silent. His eyes hardened in a glare, making me concerned as I furrowed my eyebrows at the sight. Start! With that, Shiro shot out strips of tape from his elbows, wrapping them around Todoroki as he swung him towards the side, trying to end the fight quickly. He's attempting a surprise attack. It's probably the best strategy for him. Shiro's giving it his all. Just then, the temperature dropped dramatically, a large glacier of ice spiking up towards the edge of the arena, nearly freezing my face if I hadn't stepped back. Shōto! My teeth were chattering, the cold from the ice making me shiver as the crowd went silent. Shiro is immobilized. Shōto Todoroki moves on to the second round. Midnight yelled, herself shivering from the ice that covered half of her body as cheers of "good try" came from the crowd. After a while, the ice finally melted, restoring the arena to its former glory as the cheers from the crowd began again. With the arena all thawed out, it's time for the next match. Taking that as my cue, I stood from my seat, turning to my classmates with a smile as I gave a thumbs up. I guess it's my turn, wish me luck. The clock strikes 8. To be continued. Oh, it's Shiro's turn to battle against Kaminari in the next chapter. You guys will sure get a shock next time. Anyways, here's some self-promotion which I'm not embarrassed of. Love Denki Kaminari? Then you're in luck. I've just posted my newest BNHA fanfiction. It's called Asphyxia, and the main guy is our Pikachu boy. Bye everyone. See you in the next chapter. Personal information. Likes, Kuzumochi. Blood type, AB. Relatives, Mrs. Todoroki unnamed, wife. Shōto Todoroki, son. Fuyumi Todoroki, daughter. 2 unnamed sons. Hero name, Flame Hero, Endeavor. Birthplace, near Shizuoka Prefecture. Skill power status. Power, 5-5. Speed, 5-5. Technique, 5-5. Techniques to being a father, 0-5. Intelligence, 4-5B. Cooperation, 2-5D. Hero ranking, second top pro hero. Chapter end. Do your best. With the arena all thawed out, it's time for the next match. Taking that as my cue, I stood from my seat, turning to my classmates with a smile as I gave a thumbs up. I guess it's my turn, wish me luck. X, third person view X. It's Class 1A's own assassin. The girl who lucked her way through without a quirk. That's right, it's Shiro Kurayami. Cheers erupted throughout the whole arena as she walked out from a tunnel, her expression serious. Versus the sparkling, electrifying boy, Denki Kaminari. More cheers roared from the stands as the blonde walked out with a grin on his face. Man, do I really have to fight her? Now that I take a closer look, she's got pretty misty eyes and her smiles are always so cute. But her strength is definitely no joke. Must I really go all out against someone so pretty and charming? I know I'll just ask her out once this is all over. Yes. The boy grinned, getting into a crouch as he stared at the bicolored girl in front of him. Start. The call of present Mike rang out, Shiro Kurayami getting into a stance as she eyed her opponent with a smile. Hey, Kurayami-chan. Once this is all over, you want to grab something to eat together? I'd be happy to cheer you up if you want. Denki Kaminari spoke, sparks of electricity dancing around him as Shiro blinked in surprise. Because this match will probably be over in an instant. Large bolts of lightning shot out from his figure, heading straight towards her, the electricity dazzling the crowd as they awaited the outcome. What they didn't see was the mischievous smirk that appeared on her lips. But it's already over. The sudden announcement shocked the entire crowd as well as the commentators when they noticed Shiro standing unscathed, walking over to the now short-circuited boy. Sorry, Kaminari-kun. But I'd love to maybe go out and eat together sometime. But, with a sad smile, she looked at the drooling male in front of her, her expression shifting to a smirk. That I'll be winning this for now. Lifting her leg, she aimed a swift kick towards his head, sending him down to the ground as she looked down at the now unconscious boy. In case you didn't hear me, it's already over. With a shocking turn of events too. Present Mike announced, the crowd erupting into cheers as Shiro Kurayami continued to stare down at her defeated opponent. Kurayami advances to the second round. They don't call her an assassin for nothing. She really does finish it quickly. As if a switch had flipped, the girl returned to her cheerful demeanor, helping the boy up by slinging his arm around her shoulder. I'm so sorry about this, Kaminari-kun. I hope you'll forgive me once you wake up. And with that, both of them left the battlefield and headed towards the infirmary. Shiro's view. Hello? Recovery girl? Opening the door, I spotted the woman at her desk, who turned to face me as I entered. Yes, dearie. Is this young man injured? Are you injured yourself? Recovery girl asked, guiding me to one of the beds to lay Kaminari down. And no, Kaminari-kun's the only one. He's short-circuited by overusing his quirk again. And I might have kicked him a bit too hard. I muttered the last part, hearing a motherly chuckle from Recovery Girl as she began to heal his injuries. Well, at least he didn't have anything broken. But dearie, surely going through so much must be tiring for you? When are you going to stop this? A concerned expression crossed her face, making me smile sadly as I shrugged. I don't know honestly. I just want to try my best here, but I don't know when I'll be able to do that. Looking down, I stared at my clenched fist, feeling a small wrinkled hand hold mine, making me look up at Recovery Girl. Well, I really do hope you'd hurry up. This festival should be the perfect time. Her encouraging words brought a smile to my lips. Thank you, Recovery Girl. With that, I got up, bowing at her as I made my way to the door. Did I win? A sudden voice spoke, making me turn around to see Kaminari sitting up from the bed. Kaminari-kun, are you all right? I rushed over to help him up, seeing his eyes stare at me for a moment before blinking back into reality. Man, can't believe I lost. He groaned, a disappointed look on his face as I smiled in relief, giggling at his behavior, which caused him to look back at me. Well, come on Kaminari-kun. The next match has already started, and you promised to take me out sometime, right? I smiled at him, helping him out of bed. He stood up, staring at me with a hint of red on his cheeks. Hey, you're right. Grinning, the both of us then headed out of the infirmary and to the stands where our class was. And call me Denki from now on. He looked to the side, sending his bright grin my way as I returned it with a wide smile, nodding. Right then, call me Shiro. Denki-kun. Now come on, I don't want to miss any more of the action. Grasping onto his hand, I broke into a run, laughing at the slightly shocked expression on his face before he grinned back. Hey, slow down, Shiro-chan. The two of us ran, my hand still gripping his as we laughed across the hallways, making it to the stands just in time to see the battle continue on. You guys made it back. Wow, Kurayami, you really showed your skills out there. Shiro chuckled, coming over to pat Kaminari on the back as the boy grumbled. Shut up, you lost yours too. At least I got something good out of mine. A wide grin broke onto his face, leaving Shiro and Kirishima confused as they joined the conversation. What could you possibly gain by embarrassing yourself in front of everyone? Kirishima asked, while Kaminari pointed his thumb at me, a faint blush creeping onto his cheeks. Well, I'd say scoring a date would be a pretty good prize for me. Silence enveloped the class, their stares fixed on Kaminari, trying to determine if he was joking. What? Almost everyone yelled, causing me to chuckle nervously as the boys surrounded Kaminari with a barrage of questions. How could you betray me like this, Kaminari? Going on a date with a hot girl. And with Kurayami, no less. Mineta exclaimed, shaking Kaminari excitedly while Kirishima and Shiro continued to pepper him with questions. Is this true, Shiro-chan? Are you really going on a date with Kaminari? Yaoyorozu asked, and the others nodded in agreement, eager to hear my response. I wouldn't really call it a date. We're just going to grab a bite to eat sometime. If that's all. I stammered, my answer clearly unconvincing as the girls leaned in closer, making me shrink back slightly. Hatsum is out of the ring. Ida moves on to the second round. The sudden announcement interrupted the commotion, and I looked down to see that Ida had won his match, meaning I would face him next. So, Ida will be my next opponent in the second round. The rest of the battles flew by in a blur. Ashido's match against Aoyama ended with her landing a decisive uppercut, while Yaoyorozu's fight with Tokoyami concluded quickly, as he didn't give her a chance to utilize her items. Now it was Kirishima against Tetsu. Their quirks were quite similar, and the battle dragged on as they exchanged blows until they both collapsed in a tie. The atmosphere shifted dramatically as we approached the final battle of the first round. In some ways, I'm most worried about this next one, Azui remarked, while Jiro shivered beside her. Honestly, I don't want to watch, she added, and I remained seated, my expression neutral as I focused on the arena below, where two figures emerged from their tunnels. A celebrity since his middle school days, with a face only a mother could love. It's Katsuki Bakugo of the hero course. Bakugo walked out with a scowl, heading into the ring as the crowd erupted in cheers. Versus my personal pick, Achiko Uraraka, also of the hero course. She entered the ring with a serious and determined look, and I watched intently, waiting for the battle to unfold. Do your best, Achiko, Katsuki. The sound of the starting horn pierced through the noise of the arena, and without hesitation, Uraraka crouched low and charged at Bakugo. Everyone in the class leaned forward in anticipation, while I maintained a calm demeanor as Bakugo launched a powerful right hook, creating a cloud of smoke that obscured the view of the battle. Whoa, that's intense, a few pro heroes in the crowd exclaimed, their faces showing discomfort as they reacted to the fierce exchange. As the smoke lingered, Bakugo turned his back to it, trying to sense Uraraka's position. Suddenly, a movement caught his attention, and he slammed his hand down, only to find it was just her jacket, floating away from him. She threw her jacket to distract him. Present Mike commented, a small grin appearing on my lips as I recognized her clever strategy. It's a smart tactic against someone predictable, but Bakugo isn't just any opponent. My thoughts were confirmed as Bakugo quickly retaliated with another explosion, instinctively targeting Uraraka as she attempted to flank him. The pattern continued, with Uraraka charging forward while Bakugo countered with increasingly powerful explosions. The crowd's murmurs grew uneasy, and my classmates began to look away, discomfort evident on their faces. She keeps pressing forward, but this. Present Mike struggled to find the words to describe the intensity of the match, and I could hear the crowd's whispers growing louder. Hey, shouldn't someone stop this match? It's getting painful to watch, one of the pro heroes near the front said, and another explosion erupted from Bakugo, prompting a particularly vocal hero to rise from his seat, expressing his discontent along with a clear bias against female fighters as others joined in. Hey, that's not how someone aspiring to be a hero should act. If you're so much stronger than her, just throw her out of the ring and finish it. Hearing his sudden accusation, I rise from my seat, scanning the crowd of heroes until I spot the man, my eyes narrowing in a glare as he continues to boo. Hey, you there. Are you even a hero? I shouted, disregarding the attention of my classmates and the spectators as I fixed my gaze on him. Why not stop being so biased about genders and actually use that brain for once? Huh. Aren't heroes supposed to be more open-minded? What's all this talk about an equal world? You're supposed to be aware of every angle from which your opponent might attack, so why don't you follow that example and look in front of you? I exclaimed, drawing even more attention from the nearby benches, and I noticed the hero visibly flinch under my glare. Hey, Kurayami. Calm down a little, yeah? Shiro and Kaminari tried to pull me back to my seat, but I pushed their hands away, standing tall in defiance, facing the so-called hero. It seems Kurayami is trying to defend female rights. But in this battle, I honestly agree with him. An elbow. Present Mike was abruptly pushed away from the microphone, and Aizawa took over, speaking into it. Is the one who said he's toying with her a pro? How many years of active duty? Aizawa questioned, ignoring the yelp of his partner in the booth as he glanced out the window, briefly looking at me before returning his gaze to the pro hero. If that's what you're taking away from this, then you can leave. There's no point in watching. Go home and start looking for job hunting sites. His sudden statement silenced the entire arena, everyone shocked as I continued to glare at the man. She's come this far, and he knows her strengths. His caution shows that he recognizes her as a worthy opponent. It's precisely because he wants to win so badly that there's no room for carelessness or holding back. With that, Aizawa settled back into his seat without another word, and I scoffed before looking down at the battlefield, noticing the dark expression on Bakugo's face. Uraraka then stood her ground, not charging forward, which confused Bakugo as she touched the tips of her fingers together, making him look up in shock at the pieces of rubble beginning to fall around him. It's a meteor storm. The rocks then plummeted toward Bakugo, who stood in the center of it all, his left hand raised as he unleashed the biggest explosion of the battle. The winner was already determined from the start, but I wouldn't say that Achiko didn't work her hardest to tilt the scale just slightly. I watched with a sympathetic smile as the full-scale attack erupted into nothing, small pebbles raining down around the arena. The force of the explosion was tremendous, sending gusts of wind throughout the venue, my hair blown back wildly as I remained in my position, observing the two below. Uraraka attempted to move forward again but began to sway and fall to the ground, her expression pained with defeat as she tried to crawl back up. Midnight approached her, watching her futile attempts before officially ending the battle. Drones arrived with a stretcher, transporting Uraraka to the infirmary as Bakugo walked the other way. Present Mike announced the end of the first round, and a break began. Sighing, I slumped in my seat, already exhausted from the battles, when I heard footsteps approaching our class booth. I looked over to see Bakugo. No, really. Nice job blowing that frail little girl, Kaminari remarked, earning a sharp retort from Bakugo as he sat next to me, huffing and crossing his arms. Not like me, I held back against mine. I turned to Kaminari, raising an eyebrow skeptically. Held back? Denki, you shot a full discharge at me. How's that holding back? I pointed out, causing him to blush in embarrassment as he looked away, Shiro chuckling at him. Hey, Bakugo. Great job out there. I smiled, turning my attention to the ash blonde as he glanced at me, huffed, and turned away. Shut up, don't you have a battle to prepare for? He grumbled and I giggled, looking at the arena with a distant expression. You're still at Sundra, Katsuki, I said absent-mindedly, turning back to him as he looked at me, his mouth slightly agape. Why are you hiding? He suddenly asked, causing me to blink as my smile remained. I'm not planning to. Both of these competitors have won top marks in this festival so far. But there's only room for one of these greats in the ring. It's Midoriya versus Todoroki. Almost instantly as the match began, Todoroki sent a wall of ice hurtling toward Midoriya, who used his finger to deflect the attack. This continued throughout most of the battle, with Todoroki launching large ice attacks while Midoriya strained to break through the incoming walls. Chatter from Kirishima's return started next to me, saying how he was going up against Bakugo next, while the latter bluntly responded, "I'll kill you," prompting Kirishima to say something that caught my attention. But man, you and Todoroki, you can fire as many of those crazy strong attacks as you want. Bakugo glanced at the redhead, opening his mouth to respond. As many as we want? Don't be an idiot. Strain your muscles and you'll tear them. Run too much and you'll be out of breath. Quirks are still physical abilities. Even this guy's got to have some sort of limit. Lifting his left arm, he stared at it, deep in thought while I watched him silently. Everyone's giving it their all. To win, to achieve their goals, to make it to the top. And you're gonna win with half of your power. I still haven't put a scratch on you. Even Kurayami's trying her best. She doesn't have a powerful quirk like you. But she's made it this far with her strengths. Hearing Midoriya's shout, I looked down at them, noticing how bruised and battered both his arms were, while Todoroki's right side was covered in frost, his arm visibly shivering. He slowed down, maybe because of the frost covering his body. That's different than my powers limit. Kinda like magic points in a video game. The scale of the attack against the villain was probably the most he could muster. Hearing low muttering from my side, I turned towards Bakugo, who was too focused to even notice my gaze. You're acting like Izuku, Katsukuin. You're muttering, I said, causing him to stop and snap his head in my direction, a pink tint on his cheeks as he clicked his tongue. Shut up and stop calling me that, he yelled, making me giggle as I looked back at the battle below. The fight was becoming increasingly intense. I watched closely as Todoroki's attack slowed, his eyes filled with desperation until Midoriya shouted something encouraging. Your power is your own. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of Todoroki's face, my heart breaking at his expression as I stared down at him with concern. His eyes were wide, shimmering with unshed tears, and his mouth trembled as if he were holding back a whimper. Suddenly, flames erupted from his left side, reaching up to the sky as the heat began to radiate toward our booth. Shōto, so you finally accepted it. Excellent. It all starts now for you. With my blood pumping through your veins, you will surpass me. You will fulfill my ambitions. I turned to see Endeavor with a manic grin, his eyes wild as his flames grew larger. Shōto! I yelled, trying to catch his attention as he turned his head slightly, making eye contact. Give it all you've got. I'm going to see you soon in the finals. You promised me you'd win. I shouted, cupping my hands around my mouth to project my voice, pulling a wide grin afterward as I looked at him. He stared at me for a long moment, his flames still simmering on his left side as we locked eyes. Then, he broke into a small chuckle, the slightest curve of his lips filling me with pride. Nodding, he lifted his left hand, giving me a thumbs up before lowering it and returning to his fight, his aura now radiating with newfound determination as the two charged at one another. As they ran at full speed, the cheers and shouts around us faded into the background, and I could clearly hear Todoroki's words as he muttered, "Thank you, Shiro." The clock struck 10. To be continued. Shōto! I yelled, trying to catch his attention as he turned his head slightly, making eye contact. Give it all you've got. I'm going to see you soon in the finals. You promised me you'd win. Thank you, Shiro. Watching as Cementos prepared to repair the broken arena again, poor guy. Probably has to do this every year. I got up from my seat, walking toward my prep room through the quiet hallways. So, I'm up against Idata. I muttered to no one in particular, my eyes focused on my feet as I walked through the empty halls of the stadium in search of the prep room. Shiro! A sudden voice snapped me out of my thoughts, making me look up and instantly blush. Holy Acid Shōto! Why are you half shirtless? I stammered, averting my eyes from his figure right in front of me, my cheeks burning. These gym clothes weren't exactly fire-resistant, he said, seemingly unfazed by my flustered state as he stood there comfortably. Alright. Anyway, did you need something? I really should be mentally preparing myself for the next battle. I calmed myself down, mustering the courage to look back at him as he gazed down at me. Good luck with your battle, Shiro. Like you said, we promised to meet in the finals. A small smile appeared on his lips, his eyes shining with determination after the earlier battle as he stepped closer. Thanks, Shōto. I'll try to hold on to that promise, and then I'll be taking first place right under your nose. I joked, poking his chest playfully before realizing my words, my hands flying to cover my mouth as heat rushed to my ears and cheeks. Perfect nose? he teased, raising an eyebrow at me, making me look away in embarrassment as my words tumbled out in a mess. Don't judge me. I mean, you are good-looking God, why did I say that? Anyway, just to every female student and hormonal single lady here, you just so happen to be one of the better-looking ones in this place. I mentally fell into an abyss of my own anxiety and insecurity as I said those words, hanging myself in my own mind. As I was going through my own crisis, something I never thought I would hear rang in my ears. Todoroki laughed. The cold-hearted, emotionless Shōto Todoroki, who seemed as unyielding as a royal guard, just laughed. And not just those short laughs that are forced because your friend told a silly joke that wasn't funny but you have to for the sake of their dignity, kind of laughs. It was a full-on, hysterical laugh that made everyone look at him like he was some kind of weirdo. Staring in utter disbelief, I watched as Todoroki went into hysterics right in front of me, the once silent hallways now filled with his laughter. And, oh my God, when I say that his laugh is both charming and endearing, I mean it. What are my hormones doing to me? Just as his laughter started to die down, he looked back into my eyes, the smile still on his lips as I gazed into his uniquely colored eyes. Even with the situation I had with my father, you seem to make me forget about him, he said, making me look at him in confusion as he continued to smile down at me. Thank you, Shōto. Now hurry, and I'll meet you in the finals soon. I expected him to walk away into the sunset well, a tunnel in our case while acting all majestic, but he didn't just do that. He walked over, but instead of stepping aside he came closer to me, placed a hand on my cheek, and leaned down, planting a gentle kiss on my forehead before leaving. And here I was, my face flushed and my heart racing as a whirlwind of emotions stirred in my stomach. Walking out of the tunnel, I held my head high, the crowd cheering as Ida came from the opposite end. We both stepped into the arena, ready for battle. I really must apologize for this, Kurayami-kun, he exclaimed, running towards me at full speed while I stood in place, not even attempting to dodge. Recipro burst, he yelled, his engines roaring as he advanced toward me, planning to push me out quickly to end the battle. Sorry, Ida. I have a promise to keep, I muttered, bending down and jumping over him, landing just as he stood where I once was. 10 seconds before he can use his quirk again. I thought, falling back down to the ground as I pulled my leg back, kicking Ida in the face, causing him to lurch to the side from the force. Using the kick as a push-off, I created momentum by flipping back, now directly behind him as he turned too late. I pushed both my legs forward, planting them onto his back before the force finally sent him tumbling forward. Since I was standing fairly close to the edge of the ring at the start, Ida fell out of the arena as I landed back on my feet. Ida is out of bounds. Kurayami advances to the third round. Cheers erupted from the entire stadium as I wiped some dirt off my cheek with my arm and walked toward where Ida lay. Come on. Don't get all angry on me now. I extended my hand, smiling down at Ida, who took my hand with a small huff and a smile as well, getting up and looking at me. You have totally outperformed most of us, Kurayami-kun. Even without a quirk, you seem to be on par with many of us already, he commented. I thanked him as we shook hands, then walked in opposite directions. You were amazing out there, Shiro-chan. Uraraka exclaimed, her eyes sparkling as I chuckled, thanking her as I walked into our class section. Thanks, guys. I smiled, turning my head to the back to see Todoroki there, his eyes on me as I stared back at him. The memory of his actions before the battle instantly made me blush, and I looked away as heat crept up my cheeks to my ears. Standing still, I tried to focus on the battle between Tokoyami and Ishido, but all I could think about was the boy behind me. Hearing footsteps approaching, I tensed up, not knowing who it was, suddenly feeling his warm breath against my ear. Follow me, he whispered, leaning back and walking off toward the hallways. I took a moment to regain my composure before briskly following him. Walking into the dark hallways, I looked around to spot Todoroki, finding him leaning against the wall as I approached him, making him look up. Congratulations on your win, he started, a small smile on his face as I scratched the back of my neck, chuckling nervously. Thanks, I guess. We'll be up against each other for the next round. You'll probably win, I said, leaning on the wall next to him, a sad smile on my lips. Suddenly, I felt a nudge at my arm and looked to see Todoroki. Hey, don't say that. You never know. Maybe something will give you luck or a chance at winning, he said, trying to reassure me as I giggled, nodding while looking into his eyes, my smile becoming more genuine. I'll hold you to that then, Shōto. The clock strikes 11. To be continued. I can't believe we've already got 19 chapters in. And there's still more to come. I don't even know when the story's going to end yet. I'm so overwhelmed. Anyways, I see there's some chemistry happening between Shiro and Shōto now. I'm super excited to say the least. What do you think their ship name should be? Comment below. KunoHikaYashi. July 13, 2018. It's officially my second year on Wattpad, everyone. And there's going to be a very important announcement after the one-shot, so please read it. Shōto Todoroki x Shiro Kurayami. Always and I love yous. Have mercy. I screamed, my voice echoing as tears threatened to spill from my eyes while I flailed in the arms of my playful attacker. Then admit it. Todoroki shouted, a chuckle escaping his lips as he continued his relentless tickling. And never. I managed to choke out, laughter filling the room, the movie on the TV forgotten. Suit yourself. I could hear the smirk in his tone as his fingers moved faster, dancing over my sides, causing me to squirm. My attempts to escape his grasp were futile, and my laughter echoed throughout my dorm room as Todoroki knelt beside me. Fine. I yield. I cried out, and his hands instantly came to a stop, finally allowing me to catch my breath. Say it, he ordered, mischief glinting in his eyes as I sat up, my cheeks flushed from laughter. Shōto's the handsomest guy in all first years. I muttered, crossing my arms and looking away to hide my embarrassment. And, he chimed, gently grasping my chin and tilting it so I had no choice but to look straight into his eyes. And I love that Canadian flag so much. I mumbled, breathless as I gazed into his heterochromatic eyes, a warm smile spreading across his lips. I'll let you off with that this time. And I love the prettiest girl in the whole year too, he replied softly, his breath brushing against my lips as he leaned in closer. After what felt like an eternity, he finally pressed his lips against mine. I instinctively kissed back with equal passion, my hands finding their way to his cheeks and hair. With my eyes closed, I tilted my head to deepen the moment, feeling his fingers grip my waist and another hand gently cradle the back of my neck as he pulled us closer. Our lips moved in a rhythm of letting go and reconnecting, and I felt a spark as he brushed his tongue against my lower lip, prompting a soft gasp from me. As if the moment couldn't get any more intense, our tongues danced together, hands exploring as we lost ourselves in each other. Eventually, the need for air became undeniable, and we pulled back, gasping for breath. My fingers remained tangled in his tousled hair as I pressed my forehead against his, a smile lighting up my face as I looked into his eyes. God, I love you, I chuckled, and he mirrored my smile, his eyes sparkling as they met mine. As if I could ever not love you, he replied, his fingers brushing my cheek as I leaned into his touch, humming contentedly. Lowering one of my hands, I took his and intertwined our fingers, lifting them to show him our clasped hands, feeling his thumb gently rub circles on my palm. Shōto, I began, hearing him hum in response as we sat side by side, my head resting on his shoulder while his rested on mine, his hair tickling my ear. I love you, I blurted out, earning a chuckle from him as he lifted his head, prompting me to do the same. I looked at him, my gaze meeting the smile on his lips. I know, and I love you too, he replied, bringing our interlocked hands to his lips for a soft kiss, squeezing my hand gently as I smiled back. Maybe, I love you, can be our always, I joked, feeling myself being lifted onto his lap as his free arm wrapped around my waist, his nose brushing against my neck as he placed a gentle kiss on my skin. Fine by me, he murmured, leaning into the crook of my neck, inhaling as if to savor the scent of my hair, letting out a comfortable sigh. I love you, Shiro Kurayami. Even if it means facing all the villains in the world just to be with you, he confessed, meeting my gaze once again as I rolled my eyes playfully, a blush creeping onto my cheeks. You're so cheesy. But I love you too, Shōto Todoroki, you dork, I replied with a smile as he placed a hand on my cheek, his palm warm against my skin. With that, we leaned forward and shared another one of our always. I feel like crying. I am so shocked. Thank you all so much. And congratulations to Tighty the Butterfly for being the 1000th voter in Unexpected. Hey, don't say that. You never know. Maybe something will give you some luck or a chance at winning, he said, trying to reassure me. I giggled and nodded, looking into his eyes with a more genuine smile. I'll hold you to that, Shōto. Both of these two have been in constant battle for the top spot. The two who've been supporting each other non-stop from the start of the event. How will this battle end? Present Mick's voice boomed from the speakers, and my eyes were fixed on the opponent in front of me. Shōto Todoroki versus Shiro Kurayami. The crowd roared, and a smirk played on my lips as I stood still, Todoroki's expression unreadable across from me. It was a standstill for quite some time until the sound of the horn blared. At the signal, Todoroki instantly stomped his foot to the ground, and a wall of ice hurtled toward me as I ran forward. As the spikes of ice neared, I halted, bending my knees before jumping up and away. The ice was just inches from my shoes as I leaped over them. Gotta try harder than that, Shōto. I taunted, landing a little ways from him and sprinting to the side, dodging another incoming spike of ice. During the battle, Todoroki remained silent, his eyes focused on my movements as he continuously sent walls of ice shooting toward me. You're not going to win by just dodging, he said, slamming his hands onto the floor, causing a layer of ice to cover the ground. I slipped slightly but adjusted myself, skating across the ice to get closer to him. Maybe, but it's slowing you down, I hinted, mentally thanking Bakugo for his analysis. I got close enough to Todoroki to deliver an uppercut straight to his jaw, causing him to lurch back from the impact. And Kurayami lands the first hit. Don't underestimate her, everyone. Even without a quirk, she sure can land a solid punch. Present Mike exclaimed as the crowd cheered. Yeah. You go, Kurayami. A sudden yell made me turn my head, seeing Tetsu cupping his mouth and cheering louder than the rest of his class, making me smile. A sudden chill crept up my right leg, and I hurriedly lifted it to prevent more ice from growing on it as I jumped away from Todoroki's incoming attack. Seeing the frost wrapping around my leg, I looked toward Todoroki, who had recovered from the punch, his jaw slightly red as he glared at me. Smirking at my work, I yelped as I narrowly dodged a wall of ice, one spike ripping the side of my clothes. You can't run forever, Shiro. Your stamina will eventually run out, Todoroki said, noticing my slight panting and heavy breathing as I jumped over yet another ice attack. And you can't keep using your ice forever. You're getting slow, Shōto. I shot back, aiming a kick to his side with my slightly frozen leg, hitting his ribs as the frost shattered from the impact. Todoroki winced, gripping the area. Hey, remember what we trained about? Have you gotten the hang of it? I'd really like to see it by now, I mentioned, making him raise an eyebrow in confusion as he dodged my incoming punch. Are you even trying to win? It feels like you're just fooling around. A blue glow emitted from his palms, ice forming into a weapon. What? Todoroki just made a weapon with his quirk. Is that even possible? The crowd erupted as I jumped away from him, dodging the weapon he swung at me. Hey, you improved. I grinned, still dodging as he continued to swing, his movements quick and precise, leaving a few cuts on my skin. Todoroki kept advancing, hoping to strike me as I moved back and dodged. Looking over my shoulder, I realized I was close to the edge, trying to jump to the side. But a wall of ice blocked my escape. And Kurayami has been caged in. Will she be able to get out now? I glanced left and right, trapped by ice walls, unable to escape the edge or Todoroki's weapon. Well played, Shōto. I smirked, my feet barely touching the edge as I stood still, the tip of the sword hovering just below my chin. Lifting my arms in a surrendering gesture, I locked eyes with Todoroki as midnight announced the end of the battle. Kurayami has surrendered. Todoroki advances to the final round. She cracked her whip, and the sword in Todoroki's hand slowly lowered as the ice around us began to melt. Man, This has been one incredible year, folks. Present Mike commented, the crowd cheering and waving as we continued to stand there, looking at one another. Great job, Shōto. Although you need a little more practice on your creations, I smiled, walking toward the tunnels as he followed, silence enveloping us as we headed toward the infirmary. Have you talked to my father recently? He seemed pretty upset with you, he said, and I hummed as we continued down the hallways. Yeah, I guess. But it wasn't anything important. I just asked for directions to the restrooms, that's all, I lied, earning a nod from him as he entered the infirmary, where Recovery Girl was already waiting. And Tokoyami has surrendered. Bakugo wins. Midnight announced, the crowd going wild as Bakugo got off of Tokoyami and glanced up. Looks like our final match is set. Todoroki versus Bakugo. Present Mike yelled, the two glaring at each other as the tension grew thick, and I sweat dropped next to Todoroki. But before that, a sudden interruption caused everyone to quiet down. I looked up at the scoreboards in shock and nudged Todoroki. Shōto. Look, I muttered, pointing at the monitor. He glanced up, his eyes widening slightly. Since both the losers of the third round did their best to get here, we decided to give them one more chance. The two will be competing for the extra spot in the final match. Present Mix announcement left me speechless, my eyes fixed on the matchups in disbelief. Shiro Kurayami versus Fumikage Tokoyami. It. I struggled to find my voice, but the words caught in my throat. We'll reveal the final top 3 after the break, everyone. The clock ticks closer. To be continued. Ahaitis almost gonna strike 12. Unexpected. Since both the competitors from the third round put in their best efforts to get here, we decided to give them another chance. The two will battle for the extra spot in the final match. Shiro Kurayami versus Fumikage Tokoyami. It. We'll be getting the final top 3 after the break. Third-person view X. And we are back, folks. It's time to determine the last one to make it to the final round. The crowd erupted in cheers, the atmosphere electric as they awaited the next battle. Which of these two will make it in? It's Shiro Kurayami versus Fumikage Tokoyami. From opposite ends of the arena, both students stepped forward, their expressions serious as they approached the center. And start. The horn blared, and the two students charged at each other almost instantly. Dark Shadow. The boy with the crow-like features called out, activating his quirk as the shadowy entity loomed beside him, ready to defend. Not so fast. Kurayami leaped into the air, performing a flip to evade Dark Shadow's claw, a confident smirk on her lips as she landed gracefully and continued her advance. Instinctively, Dark Shadow retreated to shield Tokoyami from harm as Kurayami landed a kick aimed at the shadow, narrowly missing Tokoyami. Are you all right, Dark Shadow? Tokoyami exclaimed, concern etched on his face as he noticed the shadow's distress. It's too bright. Dark Shadow muttered, his form shrinking as Tokoyami stood in shock, unsure why his quirk was weakening. Dark Shadow. He called out, trying to encourage his companion, but Kurayami seized the opportunity to attack. Sliding low to the ground, Kurayami swept her foot under Tokoyami's, tripping him unexpectedly. It seems Dark Shadow's out of it after so many fights, she remarked, standing over him as he struggled to regain his composure. What will you do now? She taunted, stepping closer. Suddenly, she felt a sharp sting across her abdomen, a reminder of the fierce competition. Dark Shadow. The entity stood protectively, claws raised, ready to defend his master. Wow, he's really loyal to you, huh, Tokoyami-kun? Kurayami teased, inching closer as Tokoyami and Dark Shadow backed away. How is this possible? Dark Shadow shouldn't be affected by the sun like this. He wasn't this week before, and it hasn't gotten any sunnier. Tokoyami thought, frustration building as he glared at Kurayami. End of the line now. Her words snapped him back to reality. He glanced around, realizing he had backed himself into a corner, with Kurayami blocking his only escape. Such an unfortunate outcome. With a sigh, he took another step back, crossing the line as a sharp sound echoed through the arena. Tokoyami is out of bounds. Kurayami advances to the final 3. The stadium erupted in cheers as the two opponents shook hands in respect before parting ways. Dark Shadow, are you all right now? Tokoyami asked, looking at his companion, who nodded and began to regain his original size. Yeah, I don't know what happened. But I know for sure that something bright was in front of me the whole time. Shiro's view X. At last we've arrived. The best of the best among UA's first years will be decided. Present Mike shouted, the crowd's cheers ringing in my ears as I stepped out, flanked by Todoroki and Bakugo. It's the final match. Todoroki versus Bakugo versus Kurayami. The first one to be knocked out of the ring takes third place, and the last one standing claims first. I glanced at the two in front of me, smirking inwardly as their glares at each other showed they were completely oblivious to my presence. Now start. With that, I jumped back, anticipating that these two would be at each other's throats from the get-go as a massive glacier of ice shot toward Bakugo. The gauntlet's been thrown down. Looks like Todoroki wants to avoid close combat with Bakugo. Do we already have our winner? Present Mike exclaimed, momentarily forgetting that I was also in the final match as I glanced toward the ice, noticing the light within. A sudden explosion obscured my view for a moment as Bakugo broke free from the ice glacier, continuing his fierce battle with Todoroki, both of them ignoring my presence. Seriously? I muttered, feeling sidelined as I sighed and positioned myself, waiting for the perfect moment to join the fray. There's no point in winning against some half-hearted opponent. I can't just settle for being better than Deku. If you're trying to win, get out of my way. Bakugo's rage was evident, and I took this as my cue to dash between the two. Why are you even here, you JRK? Bakugo shouted, launching himself into the air with a spin, his quirk propelling him toward Todoroki. I stepped in front of him, my palms raised. Aegis shield. A bright light radiated from my hands, creating a circular barrier of gold and white that absorbed the force of his attack just in time. I felt the heat of flames from behind me as the shield flickered and faded with the explosion. The heat waves from the blast hit me, causing my contact lenses to fall from my face, burning to ash upon contact with the ground. Ooh, what's this? Present Mick's voice was filled with excitement, the crowd falling silent as they awaited the outcome of the battle. Hey Katsuki, bet you've been waiting long enough, huh? Guess I'm done hiding. I smirked as the smoke cleared, revealing Bakugo's glare, a menacing smirk on his face as sparks ignited in his palms. So you finally decided to show yourself, coward? He growled, and I chuckled as dark energy began to swirl in my right hand, pulsing with power. Shiro! Todoroki's voice caught my attention, and I turned to see his shocked and confused expression. Sorry for keeping this from you, Shōto. My smirk softened into a brief smile before I turned back, stepping between the two of them and glancing sideways at both. Secrets out, fellas. Kind of unexpected, huh? As the tension hung in the air, the crowd remained silent, the three of us locked in a standoff. I knew you seemed suspicious, Bakugo growled, glaring at me while I maintained my smirk. I'm hurt, Katsuki. Calling me that. I placed a hand over my heart in mock offense before turning to Todoroki, who still looked bewildered. Shōto, I know I have a lot to explain to you in the class. But for now, we need to focus on the battle. He blinked a few times, his serious expression shifting toward Bakugo. I'm going to enjoy clearing both of you out of my way to the top, Bakugo muttered, crouching as he prepared to charge at me, sparks flying from his palms. Funny, I replied, feeling the power surge through my hands. I directed my right palm toward him, unleashing a burst of dark energy. Dodging to the side, Bakugo narrowly avoided the blast, which exploded behind him, sending particles scattering into the air. Shōto, the reason I knew how to train you, I opened both palms, manifesting the surge of energy and shaping it into weapons, is because I knew how to do it myself. Two long swords materialized in my hands, one shimmering with black and purple energy, the other glowing with white and gold. Well, don't just stand there. You're in this battle too. I snapped, turning to where Todoroki stood. I slashed my white blade toward him, sending crescents of light racing in his direction. Instinctively, Todoroki dodged my attack, and the crescent struck the concrete, causing rubble to fly. "Hey!" Bakugo shouted, releasing an explosion from his palms as he shot forward, hitting me and causing me to wince at the sudden sting. My left arm felt the burn, red and raw, but I glared at Bakugo and retaliated, striking him with my black sword, sending him stumbling slightly from the impact. As much as I enjoy the attention, Katsuki. I smirked at the furious look on his face as he charged at me once more. But, I'd like to have you focus a little more on Shōto. Flipping backwards, I land behind Todoroki just as Bakugo aims an explosion at my previous position, causing the blast to target the bicolored male instead. Whoa! Kurayami just used Todoroki as a shield, throwing him into the battle against Bakugo. Present Mike exclaimed, the crowd roaring as the two males began to clash. Stomping his foot onto the ground, a large glacier of ice surged toward Bakugo, encasing him in solid ice. "Oh, this'll be fun," I grinned, hearing the booming sounds of Bakugo trying to escape as he neared the edge. Just as he managed to break through the glacier, I crossed both swords in front of me and released a large ball of black and white energy that hurled toward him. His eyes widened in shock until all I could see was an explosion of contrasting colors. And now both Kurayami and Todoroki team up against Bakugo. What a power couple, people! My eyes remained focused on Bakugo's location, fully aware that he wouldn't go down that easily. "You think that could beat me?" A deep growl emerged from the smoke, his silhouette appearing with a malicious smirk, scratches marking his arms and face as sparks danced around his palms. "I would never," I retorted, taunting him with a gesture. He growled and charged at me, quirk activated and ready. "Stun grenade." Bakugo yelled, his hands sparking with energy as he cupped them together, a bright flash emitting from them in an attempt to blind me. "Have you forgotten about my abilities, Katsuki?" Aegis shield. In response, a familiar dome of panels surrounded me, this time glowing with even more energy. "The brighter the place is, the more powerful my light side gets," I reminded him, watching as the stun grenade's effects wore off and he stood before me with a scowl. Dispelling my shield, I took a stance, gripping my swords tightly as I braced for any incoming explosions. "You're forgetting one thing, Shiro." The voice made my eyes widen as I turned to face my opponent, but it was too late. "Never turn your back on your enemy." He stomped on the ground, sending a giant glacier of ice hurtling my way, its speed too fast for me to dodge as I stood frozen. It felt like I was in slow motion as the ice spiked up from beneath my feet, launching me into the air. Trying to regain my bearings, I prepared to use my quirk to land, my swords now gone and my palms facing the ground that was approaching rapidly. "Don't think for a second I'm going to let you escape." Just as he said that, Bakugo came swirling in a flurry of explosions from above, glaring down at me. In that moment, I felt a surge of fear and helplessness. Throwing my arms in front of my face, I braced for the impact of the explosion. The force hit me hard, sending me crashing back down to earth. My back hit the ground, pain radiating through my body as I gasped, black spots dancing in my vision while I struggled to stay conscious. I heard Present Mike say something, but the words blurred together as I stared up at the sky in a daze. A figure loomed over me, their gaze fixed on me as my eyes gradually shut, my world fading to darkness. The last thing I saw was a pair of heterochromatic eyes filled with concern. A barely audible sentence escaped my lips before I slipped into the darkness, feeling it consume me. "Forgive me. The clock is broken." To be continued. It is a highly explosive object that may disrupt or affect its surroundings upon contact. The user can form the energy ball from their palm, a specific weapon, such as a light sword, or by concentrating their power in the desired area. The user has control over when the ball will activate or explode, as well as its size. The larger the energy ball, the more dangerous and widespread its effects will be. Tentacles. The ability to create white tentacle-like forms made of light energy, which can be used for both offense and defense. The size of the tentacles varies based on the user's skill and intention. They can be positioned on the user's tailbone or placed on the ground. The user can control the tentacles for various purposes, such as blocking an incoming attack or launching an offensive move, but the tentacles can also move independently if necessary. Serenity Heal. By focusing their energy, the user can soothe a person's negative emotions. This ability can temporarily calm the intended individual until they naturally relax. Additionally, it can induce sleep depending on the intensity of the Serenity skill applied. Heal allows the user to concentrate light energy to mend tissue cells and repair wounds. While it cannot regenerate severe injuries, it can numb pain and reduce the severity of harm. Other moves abilities currently unknown. Abilities: Dark Shadow Side, right side. Dark Shadow Sword. The user summons a long sword made of condensed dark matter. The sword cannot dull but may break if the user exerts too much force. It can launch multiple black and deep purple crescent projectiles in the desired direction, capable of slicing through objects. However, these projectiles will disperse after a short time. The Dark Shadow Sword can also be wielded by someone else, provided they have the consent of the quirk user. Shadow Blast. A ball of controlled dark matter that can be shot or thrown. Similar to the energy ball, the Shadow Blast can either explode or consume what it contacts. Upon impact, it releases a dark aura in a certain radius. Naturally, the Shadow Blast is stronger and more powerful than its light counterpart. When it consumes its target, it can corrode the surrounding area to some extent, resembling the abilities of Pro Hero 13's quirk. Like the energy ball, the Shadow Blast can be formed from the user's palm, a specific tool, like the Dark Shadow Sword, or any other body part with enough concentration. Claws. Large, beast-like claws made of dark matter that cover the user's arms like armor. The claws do not envelop the entire arm but serve as a protective layer. They can grow in size depending on the user's control over their quirk. The claws feature sharp tips that can slice through most materials, providing a powerful offensive capability. They can also be enlarged for defensive purposes, acting as a shield against direct attacks. Other moves abilities currently unknown. Quirk user required skill set abilities. Apocalypse is a highly dangerous quirk that is challenging to control due to its unstable mix of opposing elements. Users must engage both sides of the quirk, as neglecting one can lead to unforeseen consequences. It is advised that users do not strain their abilities due to the many undiscovered risks associated with the quirk. Users must train both their bodies and minds to prepare for inheriting and using this quirk. A suitable level of fitness and mental stability is required to avoid permanent damage to their mind and body. The last things I saw were a pair of heterochromatic eyes that shone with worry. A barely audible sentence escaped my lips before I slipped into the darkness, feeling it consume me. Forgive me. Karada me. Blurred and unfocused voices surrounded me, my eyes too strained to open as I tried to concentrate on the sounds. It felt as if my head was submerged in water, everything too blurry to comprehend as my eyelids refused to obey my command to open, plunging me deeper into the darkness behind them. Can't leave. More voices emerged, their words slipping through my grasp as I attempted to move something other than my eyes. Summoning all my strength, I finally managed to twitch my finger, and gasps erupted from the unknown voices. KunoHikaYashi. The voices grew louder and clearer with each passing second. A sudden white light pierced through my eyelids, prompting me to squint against it, a groan escaping my lips in annoyance. I willed my eyes to open, feeling them flutter as the bright light flooded my vision. Holy moly! Who brought the sun in? I groaned, closing my eyes again against the brightness, waiting for the discomfort to fade and my eyes to adjust to the new surroundings. Kurayami! Cries from my classmates startled me. I turned my gaze to the side of the bed to see Midoriya, Uraraka, Ida, and a few others gathered around. Why are you here? The match is still going, right? I can't have been out for long, I grumbled, avoiding their eyes and staring at the blanket draped over my lap, my thumbs tracing circles on the fabric. We were all worried about you. You fell right on your back after that fall. Recovery girl was concerned you might have fractured your tailbone or something, Uraraka said, her eyes wide as the others nodded in agreement, while I remained silent. Well, I'm fine. You all can leave now. I'll go back after I'm done, I concluded, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. My bare feet hit the cold tiled floor as I stood up, and they expressed concern over my condition. You are in no condition to get out of bed this early, Kurayami-kun. I suggest you remain in bed until Recovery Girl permits you to stand, let alone walk. Ida insisted, his hands gesturing animatedly as I exhaled through my nose, a small grin forming on my face. I'm good. I wasn't seriously injured. Just a few scratches, but overall, I'm better off than most of you, I said, lifting my right arm, which bore burn marks from Bakugo's attack. I hovered my left palm over it, a faint glow emanating from my hand. White energy flowed from my palm, enveloping my right arm in a soft light. After a moment, the glow faded and the burn marks vanished, replaced by my original skin. See? All fine, I shrugged, watching as my classmates gawked at my healed arm. I almost forgot you had a quirk. Kirishima muttered, a small grin appearing as he scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. It's okay. I really need to change, though. This torn-up uniform isn't exactly comfortable. So, I trailed off, glancing at them in hopes they would take the hint, which they thankfully did. All right, we'll be with the rest of the class then. Yaoyorozu stammered, gesturing for the others to follow as they nodded and quickly exited the room. Standing in the infirmary in silence, I stared at the closed door my classmates had left through, closing my eyes and letting out an exasperated sigh. Third-person view X. Now let's move on to the awards ceremony. Fireworks erupted above the arena, the crowd eerily silent as three figures stood at the podium. He's been going wild since the moment he woke up. Kirishima remarked, he and his classmates watching the ash-blonde boy, who was shackled and muzzled, thrashing in frustration. No holding back, Mr. First Place? The pro-hero Midnight chuckled, while Bakugo glared menacingly, muffled curses escaping him. What's gotten into you, Katsuki? You got first place. Isn't that what you wanted? The bicolored girl sighed, standing next to him on the third-place podium. Now for the medals. Presenting them this year is none other than. A large figure landed gracefully, dust swirling around him as he stood tall. He's everyone's hero. All Might. Here with the medals. All Might was cut off by Midnight, who apologized for interrupting. With a broad smile, All Might approached Shiro Kurayami, who stood unscathed. Congratulations, young Kurayami. You're quite strong. All Might praised, placing the medal around her neck as she rolled her eyes, a smile gracing her face. Stop that, All Might. I know what I've done. But thank you, she replied, causing him to chuckle as he looked at her. You've finally shown your true strength, young Kurayami. Perhaps, with time, you can become as great a hero as your parents. His words made her smile widen slightly, and she nodded in agreement. But it may take a while. Shrugging, Kurayami made the pro-hero laugh as he walked toward the second-place podium where the heterochromatic boy stood. Young Todoroki, congratulations. He placed the silver medal around Todoroki's neck, who continued to avoid eye contact. You held back. You didn't use your left side in that final match. Was there a reason for that? All Might asked, the bicolored male staring off with an indifferent expression. It was my match against Midoriya. I think I've lost my way. I know you've taken an interest in him, and I'm starting to see why. I've always wanted to become a hero like you, Todoroki confessed, looking down to avoid making eye contact with the hero. But I can't just forget and move on. There's still something I have to settle first. Long pants are tucked into his shoes. Personal information. Likes. French cuisine, Franco-Belgian comics. Blood type. Relatives. Mr. Minoma unnamed, father. Mrs. Minoma unnamed, mother. Birthplace. Kanagawa Prefecture. School status. Power. 1-5. Speed. 1-5. Technique. 5-5. Intelligence. 5-5. Cooperation. 4-5B. Class ranks. Studies rank unknown. True character. Good, you're calm now. You can get out of these chains. Snapping her fingers, dark matter enveloped the metal cuffs, eroding them and successfully freeing his hands and arms. See, That's not so bad, is it? UA's annual sports festival finishes with a bang with their top 3 first years. My eyes were glued to my phone screen, scrolling through various news articles until I spotted my photo in one of them. Darting across the words of the website, I sighed and locked my screen, closing my eyes for a moment as I leaned my head back against the train wall, the sound of the rain pattering outside soothing me. Hey, you're Shiro Kurayami from UA? Right. A voice asked, and I opened one eye to look at the speaker, a random student from an unfamiliar school. Not answering, I continued to observe him as more people around me began to look in my direction, murmuring whispers in the silence. Hey, he's right. It's that student who hid her quirk. Why did UA accept her anyway? Yeah, she's probably not answering because she thinks she's some powerful person right now. What a brat. She probably bribed her way in. I can't believe she wants to be a hero. I sure don't want to be saved by her. Hearing the comments and gossip lingering in the air, I closed my eyes again and tried to tune them out, pulling my earbuds from my pocket and connecting them to my phone, blasting music at the highest volume to drown them out. Hey, how could you say that to someone you don't even know? It just shows how strong she is even without her quirk. A feminine voice caught my attention. I turned to see a girl, maybe a couple of years younger, standing there, looking at the adults and teenagers around us who were whispering. Yeah. It shows how she worked hard to get strong without a quirk. The boy next to her, wearing the same school uniform, exclaimed, turning to look at me with smiles of encouragement and sparkling eyes. You are so awesome, Kurayami-san. You're really showing the world how us quirkless people can be strong too. The girl said, the boy nodding as I pulled one of my earbuds out, my eyes widening in mild shock. Yeah. How you handled all of those students without even using a quirk. You're so cool. We just hope other people realize that too. He trailed off, glancing at the other passengers briefly before turning back to me with the same bright smile. So don't listen to those JRKS who assume who you are. Just know that we're here to support you. You'll be such a great hero, Kurayami-sen. The girl gave me a thumbs up, grinning alongside the boy. My mouth dropped open in slight shock and amazement as I stared at them. Thanks, I guess. I never thought there were people who think I'm great or something. I managed to say, giving a slightly awkward smile as they nodded, saying their whole school were fans of me, which shocked me even more. Throughout the entire train ride, those two told me how their school was a quirkless school and how the students there thought I was amazing. After a bit, the train finally reached the stop they had to get off at. It was so cool getting to meet you, Kurayami-san. The two of them waved, running out of the train with excited squeals as they disappeared from my line of sight. My own waving hand dropped back onto my lap as I sighed. I knew I should have checked the weather beforehand. I sighed in displeasure, walking down the wet streets toward the school gates. With the rain pouring down above me, my right hand gripped a makeshift umbrella that shielded me from the droplets. Finally making it into the main building, I dropped my hand as the shadow-made umbrella vanished into nothing. I had all these people talking to me on the way here. Chatter filled my ears as I entered the classroom, seeing a few of my classmates grouped up and discussing something. Same here. So many stares. It was so embarrassing. Hagakure exclaimed, and the others joined in on the conversation as I took my seat at the back. Placing my bag down, I sank into my seat with another sigh, resting my head in the folds of my arms as I stared out of the window into the gray landscape. The pattering of the rain was drowned out by the class's conversation, only small taps barely audible even from where I sat. As I gazed out of the large window, a sudden chill crept up my spine, a feeling of being watched catching my attention. I turned my head to look around. Looking behind me, I found a pair of unusual eyes locking with mine for several seconds, neither of us daring to look away. Good morning, Shōto. I spoke up with a small smile, giving a little wave before turning back to the window, a heavy and sad feeling weighing on my chest as I stared at the rain. Morning. A gruff voice greeted from the doorway, lifting my head to see Aizawa-sensei walking into the class in his usual attire, his previously bandaged figure now unwrapped. Good to see your bandages are off, Aizawa-sensei, Azui said, the chatter of the class dying down as our teacher stood at the front of the room. The old lady's treatment was excessive. But never mind that. Today we've got Hero Informatics class. And a special one at that. Upon hearing those words, nervous tension filled the class, anxious expressions exchanged as the silence heightened the tension further. You'll be coming up with your hero aliases. With that, I perked up with interest, the rest of the class erupting into cheers as the previous air of tension dispersed, yells of excitement filling the entire room. Our hero names. I muttered, a small smile subconsciously appearing on my lips as my thoughts wandered off. But first, concerning the pro draft picks I mentioned the other day. It's based on who the pros think will be ready to join the hero workforce after another 2 or 3 years of experience. So you could say it's a way for them to show interest in your futures. Silencing the classroom, Aizawa explains the details of the fieldwork campaigns, noting that the possibility of pros revoking their drafts is apparent even before graduation. Now, here are the complete draft pick numbers. Sketching out a graph on the board behind him, Aizawa then moves to the side to show the results. There's typically more of a spread. But our top 3 stole most of the spotlight. Exclamations of shock and excitement filled the area as my eyes stared at the board in disbelief, rereading my name over and over again to ensure I wasn't dreaming. Todoroki, 4,123. Bakugo, 3,456. Kurayami, 3,205. They're in a whole other league. Kaminari moped, slumping into his chair as others chimed in with their own comments. Didn't they get first and second backwards? Kirishima questioned, pointing out how Todoroki had received more picks than Bakugo, to which Shiro responded, guess they were just scared of the guy who was literally chained to the winner's stand. What the heck are the pros doing getting intimidated? Bakugo yelled, glaring and muttering under his breath at both Kirishima and Shiro, who were laughing and completely ignoring the fuming blonde. Well done as always, Todoroki. In front of me, Yaoyorozu glanced at Todoroki sideways, who merely shrugged off the compliment, attributing it to his father's influence as a pro hero. Shiro, you did astounding as well. Turning from her chair, Yaoyorozu smiled at me, and I kept my eyes on her, momentarily speechless. Thanks, I guess. I trailed off, second-guessing my next words as I fell silent. Yaoyorozu assumed I had finished and turned back to the front, while I rested my arms on the desk once again. It's true that you all have already experienced more than most, but seeing the pros in action and participating yourselves will still be worthwhile training. Tuning back into the conversation, Aizawa erased the graph on the board as Shōto exclaimed about how our hero names would be important. They're only tentative, but you still want to pick something appropriate. Or else you'll know true hardship. A new female voice shouted, causing all heads in the class to turn toward the door as a new person walked in. The name you pick now may just be what the world ends up calling you. That has happened to plenty of pros out there. I tilted my head upward to see Midnight entering the classroom, wearing her distinctive hero costume as she stood next to Aizawa. Yes, true enough. And Midnight here will be assessing the sensibility of the names you choose. I'm no good at that. Muttering his last words, Aizawa bent down to lift up the yellow sleeping bag on the floor, slowly stepping in. What future do you see for yourself? The name you choose will bring you closer to cementing a certain image because names can reflect one's true character. Aizawa explained, almost fully submerged in his sleeping bag as I repeated the words in my head. One's true character, huh? The clock strikes 1. To be continued. I left it kind of weird at the end. But in the next chapter, you'll learn what Shiro's hero name will be. I won't be updating for 1 week because it's the holidays here in my country, so I'll be visiting my sister in Taiwan. All you Taiwanese fans out there, get ready. So, you'll only get updates on the 28th of August, Tuesday, and the regular schedule will continue. This follows all my other book updates as well. See you all on the 28th. Thank you for your votes and comments. General information. Name, Hantashiro. Age, 15. Birth date, July 28th. Occupation, student. School, UA Academy. Class, Class 1A Hero Department. Appearance. Likes oranges, soybeans, and other healthy-looking food. Hair color, flattened down with spiked ends, black. Eye color, almond-shaped, black. Height, 177 centimeters, 5 feet 9 inches 3/4 inch. Special features, very large teeth that usually dominate his grin, elbows shaped like cylindrical tape dispensers, from which he fires his quirk. Style, wears the UA uniform properly, with a white button-up shirt underneath the school blazer, a red tie tucked into the blazer, and the last button of the school blazer left unbuttoned. Personal information. Blood type, B. Relatives, Mr. Shiro, father, Mrs. Shiro, mother. Shiro unnamed, mother. Birthplace, Tokyo. School status. Power, 1-5 bid, 4-5 B. Technique, 4-5 B. Intelligence, 3-5 C. Cooperation, 5-5. Class ranks, 15th in Quirk Apprehension Test, top 16 of the UA's Sports Festival, first year stage studies, rank unknown. Chapter end. Don't cry. What future do you see for yourself? The name you choose will bring you closer to cementing a certain image, because names are capable of reflecting one's true character. One's true character, huh? Alright, 15 minutes are up. Let's start with whoever's ready. Midnight announced, while I was too engrossed in staring at the board on my desk, marker in hand. Glancing up, I immediately sweat-dropped at the name Aoyama had come up with. Midnight corrected him, shaking her head. That's a full sentence of your arrogance. Even Lancelot would sound better. I muttered, returning to my own hero name, ignoring the other suggestions from my classmates. My name should represent my quirk better. But what could suit something that involves both light and dark? It's like saying I'm both good and evil at the same time. I pondered, furrowing my brows as I searched for words that might fit. Suddenly, a thought struck me, and a smile spread across my face as I scribbled down the name that would mark the beginning of my hero career. This is it. I thought, pride swelling within me as I felt certain this name would be perfect. King Explosion Murder. A growl of a voice interrupted my thoughts, and I looked up to see Bakugo holding his board. What the tip dash? I stifled a laugh, covering my mouth with my fist as I glanced at the name again. Finally, I couldn't hold back. Oh my god, Katsuki. What is that? It sounds like a username a kid would use for a game. Shut up. Bakugo yelled, his frustration evident as Midnight rejected his name and sent him back to revise. This went smoother than expected. All that's left is Bakugo's revision, Ida, and Midoriya, and then Kurayami. Midnight hummed, calling Ida for his presentation. I grinned at the fuming Bakugo, who shot me a glare in return. Hey Katsuki, I could give you some tips on a great hero name. I called out, causing his glare to intensify. I said to shut it. I don't need your help. He hissed, and I feigned surrender with a shrug and a grin. I always hated it. But then, someone helped me see it in a new light. It took me by surprise, but it made me happy. I watched as Midoriya raised his board, and a small smile replaced my previous grin as I saw his hero name. Deku. I muttered, feeling proud of him for overcoming the years of bullying associated with that name. Now it's time for Kurayami to give her name. Midnight said, her eyes landing on me. I nodded, standing from my seat and making my way to the front. This is my choice. Flipping the board in my hand, I revealed the name I had chosen to my classmates. Rogue Hero, Lucifer. Huh. A few of them voiced, staring at my name in confusion as questions began to arise. Hey, isn't that similar to the rogue hero, Ethereus? Kaminari asked, and others agreed as I nodded, a smile on my face. Yeah, it is. We both have rogue hero in our names. Well, it's technically a family hero name. He's my dad after all. I answered, and silence filled the air for a moment before almost everyone burst into shock. Seriously? They exclaimed, and I chuckled as I nodded, Midnight silencing the class before turning to me. Is there a reason why you chose a demon's name for your hero name before I decline it? She questioned, her eyes stern. I stared at her for a moment, then looked down at the board in my hands. Lucifer was once the eldest son of God named Samuel before his banishment. His name originates from the word morning star, even though he's often seen as the devil. I began, my voice low as I continued to avoid eye contact. The most general thought from the name is that he embodies both good and evil. My quirk is similar since it controls both light and dark elements. I understand that bearing a name that doesn't really convey good and friendly will be hard, but I'm ready to take that pressure on. I stated, confidence filling me as I lifted my head to meet the eyes of my classmates. The other reason for this name is because of his story. He was banished from heaven and sent to rule over hell. He was cast out. Memories flashed through my mind, and I took a sharp breath. You could say I'm similar. I know that by hiding my quirk from all of you, I've lost your trust in one way or another. Even the media thinks I'm not fit to be a hero because of my past actions. Look, I'm not going to force you to trust me again or pretend everything is fine. You can dislike me if you want. I said, my voice trembling slightly as I felt the familiar heat in my eyes, blurring my vision. But just know that I'm still the same person who was your classmate throughout my time here. Some say that Lucifer still loved God even after being cast out, and that's how I feel about you all too. That's why I've decided on my name as Lucifer, a once great angel with clipped wings and a dimmed halo. I finished, glancing at Todoroki for a moment and noticing his wide eyes before looking away. Permission to be excused. I muttered, hastily walking to the door and pushing past midnight. Opening the door, I stepped out and slammed it shut behind me, not caring if I had made a scene as I stood there. You're a monster. Gee, get away from me. Stop. Sensei, please help her. Hands trembling, I stumbled forward and dashed through the hallways, my eyes shut tight with tears threatening to spill over. I'm not a monster. Ah, are you going to cry? Look, the monster has feelings. No, stop. You're hurting me. Monsters don't deserve to be pretty. Cut her more. I'm not a monster. I whimpered, the adrenaline that had fueled me fading away. My legs gave out, and I collapsed against the wall, pulling my knees to my chest. Please. Sobs racked my body, the silent hallways echoing my hiccups as I buried my head between my knees. My mind detached from reality, images and sensations whirling within me as the scars on my arms throbbed with pain. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out the sound of footsteps approaching my trembling figure, their voices distant compared to the ringing in my ears. Shiro! My eyes shot open at the sound of a familiar voice as the footsteps grew closer. Lifting my head weakly, my blurry vision caught the flurry of red and white moving toward me, the shouts becoming clearer. Shōto. I managed a whimper of his name, and he quickened his pace as he ran toward me. Skidding to a halt, he dropped beside me and wrapped his arms around my shivering form, pulling me close. Feeling his warmth envelop me, more tears welled in my eyes, and I instinctively buried my head into his chest as my sobs continued. His hand stroked my hair in a soothing rhythm while the other cradled me securely, his voice whispering into my ear, providing me with a sense of belonging. I'm here. Don't cry anymore. My sobs quieted, leaving only small hiccups and the occasional sniffle. My eyes were probably red and swollen from all the tears I had shed. Feeling the warmth from his embrace, I became more aware of the situation and leaned back, alerting him. I'm fine now. My voice was hoarse from crying, and I looked down to avoid his intense gaze. The silence that followed felt heavy, making my nerves spike from how quiet Todoroki was. We should head back to class. I muttered, a wave of disappointment washing over me as I tried to get up. Wait, Shiro. His hand shot up to grab my wrist, stopping me from rising. What dash? I tugged my wrist, but instead, I fell backward into his arms, which encased me securely. I'm sorry, he mumbled, his head buried in the side of my neck as I sat frozen, feeling the warmth of his breath against my skin. What for? I asked, lifting a shaky hand to place it over his locked hands, feeling the calloused skin beneath my palm. Everything. I shouldn't have been distant during the sports festival. I shouldn't have lost my trust in you so easily. I should have come to school with you, to protect you from those who insulted you. Hearing enough of his words, I quickly turned to face him, wrapping my arms around his neck in a single movement as I clung to him tightly. You have nothing to be sorry about, Shōto. I should be the one apologizing. Leaning back, I looked into his eyes, seeing them bright and full of meaning, a small smile forming on my lips. I should have told you about my quirk instead of hiding it. But I was scared, I couldn't. I'm a coward. No, you're not. He interrupted, gripping my arms with determination in his eyes. For all I know, you're one of the bravest people here. You've limited yourself in a place filled with powerful individuals without considering what might happen. You showed your strengths that you worked hard for, even without your quirk. His words were soft yet filled with meaning as he stared at me, my own eyes reflecting shock. I don't know why you had to hide your quirk from us, but I won't pry if you don't want me to. Todoroki's gaze softened, and his hands cupped my neck, thumbs gently caressing my cheeks. Shōto. Speechless, I simply stared at him, wide-eyed and unable to form words. Just know that, even if everyone else hates you, I'll be there for you. The corners of his lips tugged into a small smile, his eyes reflecting a sense of security as he looked at me. Seeing Todoroki lean down, I felt a gentle contact on my forehead, warmth spreading from the spot as he pulled back. Come on. Let's head back to class. Stroking his thumbs over my cheeks one more time, he let go and got to his feet. My mind was reeling from the gentle touch of his lips on my forehead just moments ago, recalling a similar moment from the sports festival. Shiro. His voice snapped me back to the present, and I hastily stood up, a warm blush spreading across my cheeks. All right. I muttered, flustered and embarrassed as the two of us walked back to our class. Sliding open the doors to the classroom, all attention immediately turned to us, eyes boring into both of us as we stood there. Sorry for that. I mumbled, bowing my head slightly, my tied-up locks of black and white falling against my shoulder. The silence was thick, their gazes feeling as if they were piercing through me, making my nerves grow even more. It's fine, Shiro-chan. You don't have anything to be sorry about. We all still see you as our classmate. Yaoyorozu's voice broke the tension, causing my head to snap in her direction. Yeah. It doesn't matter, quirk or no quirk, you're still the same person. Kirishima chimed in, a grin on his face as the rest of the class joined in with their supportive exclamations. There's no way we'd hate you. Kaminari added. You're our friend Shiro-chan. We've got each other's backs in every situation. Uraraka exclaimed. Right. It is indeed surprising to reveal your quirk this late, but that is a minor detail compared to the relationships within this class. Ida stated. So if you ever feel the need to talk about it, just know that we are all here for you. Midoriya reassured me. Tihis, stop with all that nonsense. No one cares about what the media thinks, so why should you? Bakugo said dismissively. Their words overwhelmed me, filling my eyes with a fresh wave of tears as a smile crept onto my lips. Everyone. I murmured, barely managing to hold back the small sobs caught in my throat. A hand was gently placed on my shoulder, and I looked up to see Todoroki smiling down at me. See? We're all here for you, he whispered. I nodded, wiping away the tears that had escaped. Despite all the encouragement being thrown around the classroom, my mind couldn't help but flash back to painful memories. Traitor! You're a monster. Look at what you've become. No one will love you if they know who you truly are. Shut up. You have no right to say anything. Flashes of people sprawled on the ground appeared in my mind, muffled voices overlapping as I flickered through them all. We're all here for you. I'm here. Don't cry anymore. Just know that, even if everyone else hates you, I'll be there for you. Then that familiar warmth from Todoroki's voice blurred out all the painful images, transforming them into memories of him. Now, looking into his dual-colored eyes right in front of me, that burst of warmth seemed to grow. Thank you, Shōto, I whispered back, a sudden realization washing over me. My heart thumped wildly at the thought, feeling as if it might burst from my chest. Since when? Did I not realize this feeling for him until now? To be continued.